Millimeter, it be accurately measured.
It's measured flat, direction up and down. Flat level we at, flight over ground. Descending from that breeze, heading in degrees. Horizontal, flat, ESC. Now you know it's flat, below ground. Measured flat.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Sven P, Curved Fart, Pablo de la Cruz, Level Plain Poem, Vitaly Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, J Miles 24, Unamento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Bob Barker, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike Chow, Uncut, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links to Patreon, as I say, are below this video, together with links to buy my new book, Measured Flat. So check it out in the info box below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Right, since going into doing the tour the Discord server, I've half a dozen times gone into 24/7 Flat Earth Discord and then immediately left because I've had a podcast replay. So I've not stayed in there. So my suggestion, I mean, it's obviously up to you if you guys say different, is to go, well, I'll do it now, is to go into live stream 2 on 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. That way, anybody who's in that server can see that we're in there if they want to join. But I haven't been in there yet. Like, every time I go in, I just go in and go, all right, well, I can't have their podcast replay playing for my pre-show, so I'll just go somewhere else. But if I go into live stream 2, at least then people can see I'm in there and join if they want to. What do you think? I mean, I'm in there now. I can obviously always move, but...
Yeah, well, we can. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I mean, it's a. I don't know if I want to use the gamble word for this, but you know, it's a bit of a gamble wherever you go. And like I say, because 24/7 Flat Earth Discord isn't typically buzzing when I get there. There you go. Flat Earth Cafe's already joined, so people from Flipside have obviously figured out where we're going. Hey, Flat Earth
Nathan,
Cafe.
wherever you go, they will join. Build it and they will come.
Well, hopefully so.
Good morning, Joe.
Hello.
Hey, I'll grab the link here and go throw it over in the flip side so everybody can find out where you are.
Thank you very much. It looks like we're staying here then. Not that I mind. It's good. I like 24/7. Like politics, very similar. Very good. Okay, right. We're in 24/7 today then.
In the meantime, Vinny thought we forgot about him. He didn't get an email either for the press release.
I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it with my wife over the weekend. So, because I've been saying for the last 3 months it'll be a couple of weeks. I genuinely and legitimately didn't know when it would come out. So when it came out, it was a bit of a shock. It shouldn't have been because I'd approved the final version of it, but literally within 24 hours of approving it, it was available for sale. And at that point, I hadn't signed the legal documents. I hadn't signed the banking documents. I'm still in the process of getting that sorted out so I can actually get paid for it. But that has come after it was published. And I think it was because one of the things I said to him in communication with Chuck was, can you just publish it now? Because like I say, I've been putting off and putting it off. And I'm like, let's just get it published. So he's like, without responding, the next thing he responded with was, okay, it's live. I'm like, oh, okay, oh, wonderful. So now I need to actually prepare a press release. I've got my list and Killer Priest is on there, along with a whole bunch of other people, a couple of which you gave me, Eli. So, anybody that's contacted me and said, you should go on this show, are on the list. But I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to do a mail merge. That is to say, I don't want to just bosh it out to 100 people all at once. I want each individual to get an individual email. It won't be from me, it'll be from Paula. But the point is that they'll get an email to them that isn't here's 50 other people or however many go through on the mail merge. It'll just be to them. Therefore, I just knew this from doing sales. If you've got a new product and you go, right, I'm just going to do a mail merge and do a press release, then there's a good chance that there's a fair chunk of people, it just goes straight to their spam folder. And they just never hear about it. Whereas if you go, right, okay, well, I do actually want to target specific people to market this to, I'll contact them individually with a press release. Because that looks, number one, it looks miles better. You've contacted them by name as an individual with an individual email for them specifically. So when it's Dear Killer Priest, my new book is available, or whatever it's worded as when my wife sends that particular email to them. It's just that little bit more personal, and you're far more likely to get a better reaction. It just takes a lot longer. So from that point of view, I'll put together a press release over the weekend, like actually type it up as a template that my wife can then add her name, the individual that she's contacting, a little bit of blurb that's specific to them, and then send them out and then put them into a database so she can keep track of who she's contacted and when, so that she can follow them up without pestering them. So that'll be something that, I'm not going to rush into just, I've got to get 100 press releases done immediately. It's like, no, the book's available. It's been a long time coming. There's going to be people who are dead keen, like yourself, Eli, that just go and immediately buy it, which is great because there's been loads of people who've bought it. It's sold a shit ton in the first 24 hours. I'm delighted. So great. But from the point of view of it's going to be available for a long time, so there's no point in rushing doing a press release. I will do one, and it'll be to each person individually. But if they get it in a fortnight or even longer, so be it. They'll get me or whoever's contacting on my behalf, contacting them specifically. So that's the way it's going to be done. So I don't want to rush it. In other words, I want to effectively market it, and just boshing out a press release isn't, in my humble opinion, the most effective way of doing it.
I agree, and that's why the your top 5, 10, 20 people that you want to make sure know that they have it, especially past friends, right? I don't think Eddie Bravo mentioned you by name. He should get something personal from you.
And he has.
Mark
sorry to interrupt, Surf Daddy. He already has. So there's a few people, like I say, Tamara was another one. Rich was another one. There's just a few. Roger Ledwell, as much as it'll be to to Neil's irritation, as he's not exactly a big fan of Roger Ledwell for a number of reasons, which he's justified. But nevertheless,
send the Bro Sanchez.
I haven't contacted him personally to say, look, the book's already out, because he hasn't said to me, I'd like to know when it's available. So someone like Rich was specific when he spoke to me last. When it comes out, let me know immediately. So outside of the press release, people like Mark Sargent, Tamara, Rich, that's 007 channel, Eddie Bravo, a few others, I've just contacted them personally and gone, just a nudge, the book is now out. I'll also be contacting you via a press release. So I'll, touch base with you further when that happens. In the meantime, just a heads up, it's out now. So I have obviously contacted some people personally. But Bro Sanchez, I do have a relationship with Bro Sanchez. It's just not particularly a great relationship with him. Like, we have spoken, we've emailed a few times. There's been once when he was trying to get me on my show, I just couldn't meet the times that he wanted me on. So, I've been in touch with Bro Sanchez in the past and have his, obviously, contact information. But he's not been on me going, make sure you let me know when the book's out. So I haven't. Do you see what I mean? Now, admittedly, Eddie Bravo didn't do that also, but, because he's probably the most popular person I know, I have contacted him as a matter of course.
Okay. Yeah, I was speaking to Vinny last night, telling him that the book was out, and he was excited. He's like, I thought you forgot about me. And I was like, no, it's just, a lot of stuff happened, and I wasn't going to update you until there was an update. So here's the update, and he's excited about it. And he also he told me not only Killer Priest, but he has inroads with Bro Sanchez too, and a lot of others that we haven't talked about. So I guess, that'd be interesting to when you finally get in contact with him to see what doors that may open up.
Perfect. Yeah, Vinny's on the list, so yeah, it's not far from it. I haven't forgotten about him. He's definitely on the list of people to get a press release. So yeah, he will eventually hear from me, like 100 other people will. And hopefully that list will continue to grow. But I think if I want 1 in 10 of them to actually be, reciprocal, or whatever the word is, reciprocating my contact with them, then I need to actually contact them on an individual level. So yeah, I hope I can get maybe 10 appearances off the back of 100 contacts. And if it ends up being Mark Sargent, Bro Sanchez, Killer Priest, I don't know, maybe Eddie Bravo, these that'd be a fantastic list if there was just literally 4 or 5 of them, like half of my anticipated 10 out of 100 contacts. But I'd hope it was a bit better than that. Like, I'd hope, ideally you want to go on all of them, right? But, if I can get on 5 or 10 shows off the back of maybe a couple of weeks to a month's worth of work, that would be ideal. So for the sake of putting in that graft for a month between now and end of August, let's just say, I would hope that through September, October, November and the end of 2026, I can go on a few shows. And if I get on 1 a month and then do 6 months worth of, advertising for the book by being on shows and talking about Flat Earth and using the opportunity to plug the book, then that would be the absolutely ideal outcome. It just takes time. I'm just glad that process is now. I'm delighted. This was the bit I was waiting for and most excited for, because this is the bit that will grow the channel. So obviously I want to sell books. I want to keep the mortgage paid and the lights on. That's great. The byproduct of money is fantastic. But ultimately, there's main purposes that have been fulfilled in writing the book that I don't necessarily have a need to highlight anymore, because it speaks for itself if you're reading it, right? You either read it, recognise how Flat Earth is measured as a consequence of the material being good, which it is, if I do say so myself.
Well, that's exciting for you to say that, because one of the things that stuck with me that Vinny said was, excuse me, was that he believes that, your name, of all the names out there, like, should be out there. It should be popular. Like, you should have more views. You should have more people go into your stuff. He's like, because I feel like it's the most premium information. So his goal is to grow your channel by getting you in front of as many people as possible. So I hope that, what he sees in his mind, he's able to help us accomplish. And just growing your channel, thus growing the people that hear this message is the goal for me.
Well, a few people have echoed that sentiment, and a couple of them made comparisons, probably because I did on yesterday's show, to Dave Weiss. They're like, great, I want to see you out there doing what Dave Weiss does. And they obviously referenced it back to my book versus his app, because it's a similar sort of process that Dave Weiss is engaged in. But obviously my fans want to see me doing that, not necessarily instead of Dave Weiss, but they just want their representative of Flat Earth to be the one that's out there spreading the message that they're most keen on hearing, right? And now that might, admittedly, in some of the messages be as opposed to Dave Weiss's message, which they see as inferior. But I don't want to be too negative to David Weiss. Like I say, in many ways, I'm aspiring to be like him when I go out and do what he is doing already. So he's had the impetus to get an app together, have a product to be out there selling, and then be in front of people selling it. Like, more power to you. I know exactly the routine. He also was in sales, when he was doing his solar panels and stuff, and I'm sure other jobs throughout his careers were sales orientated. So he knows what he's doing and he knows how to do promotion. So from that perspective, I look up to Dave as much as I might knock him for his Flat Earth information. It's like me saying more power to Simon Dan as a YouTuber, more power to David Weiss when he's out there promoting his stuff. He knows how to do it and he does it well. And like I say, I aspire to achieve a similar sort of end when I'm out there promoting this stuff. And it starts with press releases. It starts with people like Vinny.
Yay, promoting geography.
Well, I don't know if you're saying that with sarcastic tones or downplaying it, but it's the message that flat Earth has been convoluted into a category error as science, very specifically. So over here in the science section, we've got flat Earth or anti-globe versus globe belief, otherwise known as anti-flat Earth, right? But that's over in this science category, which it doesn't belong in. And over here, we've got geography, Earth measurements. And that's just flatness in terms of every single measurement ever. It's never been bundled together in the same category. Like flat Earth is seen as separate to geography. So that the geography of Earth measurements, flat that they are, can be used with distance, height, altitude, surface level, sea level, etc., by both globers and flat earthers, anti-flat earthers and anti-globers, are all using the flat measurements without actually mentioning it. So they all need to be able to pull from geography as a separate category. And I hope that in the next year, let's just say, people will start to recognise that it is in a category error. It's like Earth measurement is absolutely nothing to do with science. You know, maths, maybe you could put it in that category, but realistically, it's geography. And most people are familiar with geography. Like if they've gone through high school, they'll have done a geography lesson and they'll understand some of the principalities that are being pointed out by us in the subcategory of flat Earth. And they're already intrinsic familiarity with that subject and how flat Earth must be measured to describe altitude from sea level, gas cycles, a lot of the stuff that people will have been, taught in the geography class. It's just never been taught as being flat Earth measurements when they describe a linear distance or an altitude from sea level or sea level itself or altitudes of mountains or whatever it is that you were being taught about in the geography class. It's just nobody said to you when you were being taught it with specific flat Earth measurements that they are flat Earth measurements. Because, and this is something we've covered over the last 6 months, it goes without saying that they're flat Earth measurements. So because it goes without saying, nobody says it. And because nobody says it, globe believers have been using those measurements. Irony of ironies, right?
That's correct.
Weird, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know if that was a sarcastic tone that John was just using when he was like, yay, geography.
Yeah, a little semi, like you said, they've lost respect for the plane of reference. And that's what all this is about.
Exactly. If it goes without saying that we'll be measuring distances, altitudes, surface level, eye level, flight level, with respect to a plane of reference, and everybody understands that, then everybody can use it without saying the words flat Earth afterwards. In fact, quite the contrary. People can say, well, once we measure this plane of reference, Earth's a ball. And that's what's been happening. It's bonkers, but that's the way that the subject, it's, in my humble opinion, been socially engineered to be.
Well, it hasn't been socially engineered as in a conspiracy, as in it's been done by people. It's just naturally how it's happened.
Don't agree.
Hmm?
I do not agree.
You think that?
Absolutely. I think you can algorithmically control what people watch and what they watch next. And in the first chapter of my book, my new book that's just come out called Measured Flat, the opening chapter talks about exactly that. I'm sat watching videos on a conspiratorial subject, psychopathy, narcissism, and subliminal messaging. And what comes up on autoplay? Math Powerland. Suddenly I'm listening to somebody talk about flat Earth after watching a conspiratorial subject. Now, I didn't click on that video. It was presented to me. Yeah? So algorithmically, it is engineered to get conspiratards to come to the subject.
It's more algorithmically. The algorithm's designed to pick videos that people that have looked into the same thing you have, what they have also been interested in. So I don't know if it's fair to say that it was.
No, it is fair to say, because if you do it that way, then flat Earth is a conspiracy also.
Exactly.
So it has definitely been done that way.
Exactly. You categorize it as a conspiracy against the understood worldview that Earth's a sphere. Therefore, the conspiracy is that Earth's a flat plane. It's the other way around. The conspiracy is that Earth's a ball. People have conspired to create a worldview of sphericity for the general public to believe in. That is, ipso facto, the conspiracy. Where have people conspired?
What is, like, when you say conspire, that means that with intention, though.
Yeah.
Right.
You're telling me Copernicus didn't have the intention to make the world spherical or move it around the sun, or these things are absolutely intentional. The Roman Catholics' creation of heliocentrism is an absolute intentional thing. And when it reaches the pinnacle of understanding and people go to that information to pull their worldview knowledge to lord it over the rest of the people they're in control of, that is a conspiracy. People have conspired to pass this information on to the general public as their, in our understanding, religion, but their understanding of what the world is. That's a conspiracy.
Right, and they don't want to deal. They don't want to deal with it right now. That's what I think.
Hold on, let's just hear John. He's disagreeing with me, which I like. Go ahead.
I think there's, we're talking about hundreds of years and the information becoming lost, basically.
Becoming lost?
Right. The plane of reference, while it was necessitated to build the celestial sphere, right, it wasn't focused on when trying to figure out the movement of the stars. They discounted it being a flat plane by performing geometry that didn't apply to the stars. It wasn't intentional. It was just...
That's bullshit.
No, I see what John's saying. He's saying, upon the conception of the model, that's not an intent to deceive. That's an intent to try and better explain the movements of the stars. Therefore, not a conspiracy to introduce heliocentrism as a one-world religion. However, when you pull from that information and want to seem smart, you need the people who understand the information to understand it to be the world that you're explaining it to be. Therefore, being the world of reification that you then take the world to be after being told by a smarter man than yourself who has pulled from that information. But that still requires the information to have been put into effect, produced by the Roman Catholic Church, and then pulled from by others in power. And that's the progression over the hundreds of years that the information has been at the pinnacle. But it just means that if that's the best you've got to pull from, if that's the only explanation, it's like explaining, combustion with phlogiston? If that's the best explanation that you've got, and that's what you're using to purvey, is that the right word, or create the impression of you having an advanced understanding, then you will convince the person that you're telling the information to that it is absolute and correct. Now, the fact that in the case of phlogiston, it's demonstrated incorrect further down the line doesn't change that at some point somebody will have pulled from that information and passed it on to another person as though they are intellectually superior in spite of it being wrong. Well, the same is applied to heliocentrism. Heliocentrism is just the pinnacle of our ability to explain the movement of the lights in the sky. Its inconsistency with the flat plane that's measured to create it is irrelevant if you're just trying to explain better where the lights will be at a given time.
Therefore, the intent is not there, so it's not a conspiracy.
I don't know. Through ignorance, you're right, because if somebody just pulls that information and they just see it as the correct information, either through embarrassment or ignorance, they then continue to purvey that information as being gospel when it isn't. Doesn't necessarily mean that their intent is to deceive the world into heliocentrism. It's a byproduct of their ignorance, and yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and I agree with John. If all you have to do is talk to anybody who's a astrophysicist or an astronomer, and the only information they have available to them is what was taught to them from previous people with that quote unquote knowledge, and all of the knowledge that they have is just philosophy and theory about stuff. You can't talk about wormholes or star distances or, what a star is made of or whatever without relying totally on what someone else has thought about and published, and everyone else goes, yep. That must be it. And until we get more information, that will be the information. So
it's self-perpetuating inaccuracy.
Yeah, well, that's all we've got is that information that was passed down all the way from even before Copernicus. And, your characterization of the explanation of why the Catholic Church, wanted to know where the stars were going to be, for Easter, whatever, that kind of stuff. That's all I think that heliocentrism has been. Good morning.
Maybe what's north?
Say again?
Yeah, what's north?
What's north? Put you guys on screen. Can you turn your camera off, Neil? It's flashing in my eyes and distracting me. Wonderful. Excellent. What's north, did you say?
Yeah, man. What's going south?
John's referring to the false direction fallacy. So in terms of azimuth, that's directionality, it's a flat Earth prerequisite measurement of Earth's surface to move in any direction with respect to Earth's surface. That's azimuth. Now, there's a false impression through the heliocentric indoctrination of the 21st century that we have a upward orientated north, and we do not. Azimuth, that's north, and degrees from north are only capable of ever being described in the horizontal. In fact, all directionality ever, including up and down, is with respect to a planar surface. Earth is flat to move in any direction ever. As I say, today we are in the Flat Earth 24/7 Discord server, and I've gone into this server periodically in the past. Let's just turn the camera back on. I've gone into this server periodically in the past, and there's been a chat replay in the main live stream. So even though there's been people participating, I don't necessarily want to just rebroadcast somebody else's show when they're playing it in their server as a replay. So for that reason, I don't think in the last 3 weeks of going into random different servers, whilst waiting for my book to be published, I've actually been into Flat Earth 24/7 Discord. Now, to my knowledge, it's run by AI Overlord, and according to Neil, he gave him a little heads up that the book had been published, and he gave him a little tip of the cap in response, which, to my assumption, is to say that we could be warmly welcomed if we were in Flat Earth or 24/7 Flat Earth Discord, the server that we're currently in. So hopefully one of my mods will stick a link in the live stream chat to 24/7 Flat Earth Discord, which is where we're presently in, if you want to call the peanut gallery that we use Discord, the means that you have as the audience to actually join the show. If you did want to comment on anything that's being discussed currently, then feel free to join the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server for today's show. And because we haven't typically gone in here, it's a fairly quiet server at the moment. Nobody knew we were coming in, including myself, when we figured out which server we were going to go into today's pre-show. But yeah, that's where you join today. Like I say, hopefully one of my YouTube mods will stick a link to the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server for anybody to attend. And if there is anybody listening who's in the other server, then join in the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server if you want to take part in the show. I am correct in saying we haven't been in this server at all, right, in the last 3 weeks. It's all been Earth Awakenings and politics and Gem Pandas, Debate Flat Earth and more. The only other one that I haven't been in is Jenna's server. We even went in the Real Offended for one of the pre-shows, admittedly just to go up on his stage as they have it set up over on the Real Offended, and then talk briefly about the book coming out, and then he bumped to the sidelines for him to carry on with his own live show. So I've even been in the Real Offended Discord server. Other than Jenna's, I think that's it. I think we've been in all the ones that I'm associated with or have ever been in ever. The only exception to that would be the English hub, where I'm not welcome, it would seem, because it's an English learning Discord server. So for that reason, I think we got kicked out of that one pretty quickly from memory by a guy called DJ. Am I thinking of the right one? The English hub? Yes, Nathan. Well, I'm glad you're also very interactive with me today. Marvelous stuff.
Here we go. We could go into like a geometry or a surveying server, Discord server. I think we've done that before.
Yeah, we did that. We went into a geography server. So when we did, number one, it was full of like teenagers or pre-teenagers, it seemed, in terms of the way they behaved. And very quickly, they didn't want us there. So they had an echo chamber of kids that happened to be in school that happened to like geography, but weren't necessarily talking about anything to do with geography. So we all got renamed, because in a server you can rename the participants if you run the server. So we all got renamed with various different homophobic titles. So like soy boy and tranny and all these different, slightly derogatory anti-homosexual and transsexual tags that we were given. So instead of it appearing, that's me, as Nathan Oakley 1980 in the server, I think I was called, I can't remember, like I say, soy boy or something like that, fem boy. I can't remember exactly what I was relabeled, but something along those lines, along with everybody else who had joined me in the server, to talk about flat Earth and talk about geography in general. So as a byproduct of learning about this subject, the more time that has progressed, and we were just discussing this in the pre-show, the more we've become geography experts. Now, that's pretty dull. It sounds much more glitzy and glamorous when you describe it in the category area of it being science, which it isn't. It is just geography. Earth measurements is geography. But that means that that's the subject that we now find ourselves in. And a lot of what is discussed in the book that's just been published is basically just geography. It's talking about Earth's measurements. And I think that's partially one of the reasons why my prediction that in time, people will recognise this information as having always been the case, because it has always been the case. And separating science from geography has meant that people can be taught about flat Earth measurements in school and be very familiar with them. People aren't unfamiliar with sea level, as an example. Most people will hear that term and go, yeah, I know exactly what sea level is. It's like, yeah, therefore you're familiar with the flat Earth measurement. It's never had the fact that Earth is unequivocally being measured flat for this particular master reference we use for all altitudes, that's sea level, as a flat Earth measurement. Therefore, people just have it as read. It's taken as read. It goes without saying that Earth's measured flat for something like sea level. The clue's in the tile. Go ahead. Somebody wanted to get something in there. Go ahead.
Right, but a baller or the heliocentrists who are populating those geography servers, that's the closest they'll ever be to their cogdiss. That is the place that they are the most sensitive to the information, because all you got to do is point whenever they present something. You know what I mean? It would be a really soft spot for them. You know what I mean?
Not exactly. I mean, if it's not incongruent with what they're learning, if you're learning about isobars or altitudes or sea level itself or whatever it is you're learning in the geography class, you would think that you'd just be familiar with the information, therefore it would resonate when it's just pointed out. That which I've suggested goes without saying. When it is said, why would they be overly sensitive? I don't think I'm following what you're putting down here, John.
Well, they're heliocentrists. Their religion is being challenged by the information they're studying. But as long as no one points it out, it's like it's not a problem. Us pointing it out, they're not able to hide from their cognitive dissonance.
I see. So it's kind of like if you're in a Reebok forum and everyone wants to talk about how fantastic the trainers are, and someone comes in and goes, Reebok use slave labour. And everyone goes, shh. That's uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about the child labour that's used to produce the trainers. Shut up. Now, I'm not suggesting for one second that is the case, right? That's just a hypothetical example. That is to say, I don't know if that is the case for Reebok or Nike or whoever, right? But just a clothing manufacturer of some description that is familiar to people. If you were in a forum for them and all they want to talk about is the new rubberized spikes that they have produced for a better AstroTurf grip, and you come in and go, yeah, but the materials were mined from somewhere that produces huge amounts of toxicity and pollution. And you go, shh, we just want to talk about how the spikes give you better grip in the AstroTurf. Don't talk about the huge amount of toxic endeavours that are a byproduct of producing these trainers. Nobody wants to talk about the uncomfortable reality of that. Is that what you're saying? And in geography terms, it's like, yes, we understand that Earth's measured flat with sea level, but we want it to go without saying because it makes us uncomfortable with our separate religion of heliocentrism when you point out that everything we're dealing with is a flat Earth measurement in a geography forum. Suddenly it becomes uncomfortable.
Yep. Suddenly, then it becomes necessitated that they attack you to get you away from them.
I think it's that simple. Sorry, Nathan and John. It is that simple. That everything's fine as long as we just, skip past the fact that we're measuring Earth flat and using sea level. This is what you say all the time. That's what John's pointed out. We've been saying it for weeks, months. As long as we just forget that and then skip to the calculation or the mathematical whatever you've done with the flat measurements, we'll be fine. But let's not concentrate on the first most important bit, that we're measuring Earth flat, and then we can just all get along tickety-boo.
But you can't do that in geography forums unless there are no flat earthers there. They cannot be any flat earthers, or they will have to be attacked because that's all they're doing is measuring Earth flat.
Yeah, how naive was I when I was like, oh, we'll be warmly welcomed in the geography forum. We know exactly what we're talking about when it comes to derivations of latitude and longitude, grid references, coordinates, mapping, charting the territory, measuring the sea level, measuring the territory, measuring altitude, that's topographical deviation. Everything about geography, we're all subject matter experts in now. We've been spending 10 years learning about Earth and its measurements. That's pretty much all we've done. So you'd think you'd get welcomed with open arms. No. Like you say, suddenly the uncomfortable truth of Earth's fatness is being put in front of somebody who has a separate lesson, potentially at their high school, that's called science, that suggests the complete antithesis of what they're learning in the geography class. Hence, it has to be kept very much separate. So, yeah, I was naive and thought that we'd be warmly welcomed in the geography forums. Far from it. And unless, renaming me Nathan the Femboy or whatever I was called is considered a warm welcome. I wouldn't necessarily say so. But eventually we were just kicked out of that particular geography forum. Now, I'm sure there's lots of geography forums. That was just one particular example. I couldn't tell you which show it was on, but it was definitely recorded.
It will be the same in every single geography forum you go to. As long as that's the dominant religion, that is the pain that they will deal with, and that's the only way they can react to it. Because they have the information right in front of them. They can't deny it.
Yeah, I mean, and true to form with anybody who races against us, the first gut reaction is to attack the man, right? The order of events, right, this is back to what I said about 10 minutes ago, is a subject that's unfamiliar will be immediately mocked and designated as being almost comedic in its representation, right? So this is just comedy. You're joking, right? Earth being flat, you must be joking. Now, that's the initial reaction. Step 2 is to brace against it with vigour. That is to say, send the police round, send social services round, try and shut me down, steal from me, abuse me. That's me, the individual flat earther, me being representative of anybody in the subject, right? But the next stage is an acceptance as though it had always been the case. Accepted as having been always understood to be flat in this specific category. Now, given that that is the case, it's not a stretch to see that in our future. Now, 5, 10, however many years ago, there was a consensus in the community of flat earthers, what I now call anti-globers, that 12 months from that point, 10 years ago, there'd be a wave of people coming to the subject that understood that Earth was flat based on their understanding of Earth not being a ball being passed on by the guru in question, whoever that may be. And, I can remember Dave Weiss saying, this time next year there'll be 1 million flat earthers. That kind of sentiment doesn't incorporate that process of seeing it as comedy, mocking it, ridiculing it, and bracing against it with every bit of vigour that our opponents have been able to muster over the last 10 years, and then just accept it as having always been understood to be the case anyway. But because Earth is, in sincerity, actually being measured flat every single day, everybody who has ever measured Earth ever measured it flat, and that'll be the case tomorrow also. It is easy to comprehend a future, or envisage a future that has that being the case, where people go, yeah, of course, I always knew that sea level was a level. It's kind of in the title. I always knew that. Now, I remember 6 months ago, Jim CBR1, saying, no, I reject this notion that anybody could come to the subject and suggest that they always knew it was the case. Now, we mocked him, suggesting that, no, you just want guru status. You want them to have come to the subject through you and your knowledge, making you the guru. But ultimately speaking, it can, and I suspect will, be accepted as the case. In fact, it's one step beyond that. It is inconsequential whether or not it is accepted as having always been the case, because it was always the case. Yeah, the measurements were always flat anyway. Therefore, it kind of negates that last step. It doesn't need anybody's acceptance. Now, to have a consensus on the matter would mean that it was an opinion-based subject. And it isn't. It's a measurement-based subject. So it's irrelevant. You get to the point with the, previous guru status that we might have ascribed ourselves, going, well, I don't need to be a guru. And further to that, I don't need to debate somebody on it anymore. Because what's the point? Regardless of whether or not you believe you're on a ball, you will derive flat Earth measurements. If you're an audience member, go and listen to any of the last 3 weeks of debates. They all follow the same pattern. Someone comes, tells me I'm an idiot, tells me that I beat my kids and the police should come and lock me up, and then they offer a flat Earth measurement on a pillow. They go, here you go, here's a flat Earth measurement. I say, yeah, it's a ball. And it's the same pattern. And then when you go, well, that's a flat Earth measurement, they then try and attach that flat Earth measurement to me, the individual, so I can be Nathan, the soy boy, or whatever it is they insult you with, and you being incredible or not credible means that I can reject the measurement I just used to suggest veracity. That's the pattern, though, isn't it?
I think though, Nathan, as well, we've not, I don't know how many years, but we've only been drilling down on the measurements for a certain amount of time. And I suppose in the early days, when you came into it, he wasn't really discussing measurements. We was talking about the feast of nonsense, yeah, or the nonsense waffle that we was talking about, not measurements. And we've spoke about it tons of times, skip past the fact that their globe proof of Eratosthenes and Alberuni, we was missing that measurement. Yeah, we thought that was some sort of globe proof. Yeah, or we might have picked up on the presupposition of parallel lights or what or the other. Well, they did presuppose it was a globe anyway in the first instance, but we wasn't concentrating on the actual physical measurements, and that was not being discussed at that time.
What you say, drilling down is with respect to a plane, of course.
Oh, well, that goes without saying. I mean, anything that comes out of anybody's mouth, it's referencing a flat Earth, because that's just the way it is.
A couple of weeks ago, One Deck, me speaking to the audience, sorry to speak about it in the third person, One Deck pointed out that what he was enjoying over the last 3 weeks, let's just say, of debates on random servers was the turn of phrase that isn't necessarily connected to the so-called argument. So in this case, there's a turn of phrase. One Deck said, we haven't drilled down on the measurements. Now, if it was being delivered to me by a so-called opponent, that's a globe believer, a religiously indoctrinated heliocentrist, then they'd offer me a flat Earth measurement which would be put up as though it is a debating point. But during the suggestion of a particular debating point, areas of equal elevation, radii derived from elevation angles, heights, surface level, sea level, flight level, whatever it is that you're arguing about that they're suggesting proves their sphericity by way of a flat Earth prerequisite, there would be at some point a suggestion of something ancillary to the actual point on the debating table if you want to suggest that it is a debating point. It isn't. But once the suggestion of a sphere proof's been offered with a flat Earth measurement, there'd be that turn of phrase where, oh, I'll just go and look it up, as an example. And you go, well, to be looking up would require you have a plane of reference. And like I say, one deck, to talk about him in the third person, said he really liked when I was taking the ancillary information and still tying it back to a plane of reference, like drilling down, looking up, etc., because it's humorous, right? It's funny, because obviously the debating point on the table is, well, areas of equal elevation can bend, or whatever it is they're claiming. And then, well, I've got a citation, I'm just going to go and look it up. Response from me, well, looking it up would require you have a plane of reference. Because that's what we can do now. We can just muck around. It's just finding ways of being funny, as opposed to worrying about whether or not we win, lose, or draw in a debate that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. That's exactly what my point was. It's so more relaxed, and you can have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke, just doing what you've just described. And that was what I was noticing, the last few months, and especially the last few weeks in these arenas, where you're having a laugh about it. You're not arguing and getting frustrated. It's just a measurement now, and we can point out how everybody is using flat Earth measurements in all instances. Always has been, from a level baseline called sea level, which we just had to begin with. As it happens, it was just level, and that's what we've had to use for all measurements going forward on this Earth. So we started with a level plane, and everything from the level plane is a flat Earth measurement. Simple as that.
Well, it's not every day that people deny third-grade geometry.
Just one sec. So since being in Flat Earth 24/7 Discord server, which apparently, according to Neil, we have the tip of the cap to be in, I've been server muted in there, so no one can hear what we're saying in 24/7 Discord anymore.
That's strange. I wonder why that's happened.
I have no idea. So somebody's obviously taken aversion to me being in there and just muted me. So now I'm server muted, so nobody can hear what's being said in Discord anymore. How wonderful!
I mean, I did come in. I did come in a little bit late, but it just sounded. I think I came in at.
That's correct. Sorry, I'm answering my delay. YouTube.
Flat Earth Cafe can't hear my response, but yeah, he's just confirmed. Yes, they can't hear a word that's being said in Discord anymore. So I'll just disappear to a different server, because what's the point of being in here if I can't be heard? But I was looking over and I'm like, why is there so few people in there? And you're like, well, because nothing's being said. They'd rather have a room of silence with everybody on mute, and the only person talking, that's me, being server muted. So somebody's gone in there and decided, no, let's just ruin this particular person's attendance in this particular room today. I don't get it. Very disappointing.
It sounds to me like there's somebody who has extensive knowledge of a helium.
I can't talk to AJ. It's freaking that DJ scumbag guy.
Oh, it's that DJ. How do you know? I didn't see him go in there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's DJ.
He don't have to. He owns the server. He did it last time.
It seems like somebody's got an extensive knowledge of heliocentrism, and they're irritated that we've made it obsolete.
Fair enough. Do you have a link to that guy's videos, the DJ guy? We'll have a little look. Anybody?
I can look it up if you tell me what I'm looking for.
The guy, I don't know what the guy's channel's name. It's just called DJ something or other. So I had a quick glance, because it's like, it was about the third occasion that it come up in discussion, and there was a suggestion that for whatever reason he doesn't like us being in whichever service he's affiliated with. Now, I don't know if that's the case because I saw him in one of the other servers the other day. I can't remember if it was Gem Panda's server or somebody else's server. And he was happily sitting there. He didn't come off mute. He didn't moan. He didn't do anything. He was just there listening, right? So if it is the case that he's decided that he's going to exclude us, it's like, well, why? So I started having a quick look. I had a poke around and found one of his videos on his channel and had a little look and had a little, observe. And on the one hand, you're like, okay, so your rhetoric is old school flat earth rhetoric. That is to say, it's feast of nonsense, anti-globe rhetoric. And we are bracing against that. But you think, is this what I call crabs in a bucket syndrome? If you're unfamiliar with the term crabs in a bucket, if you ever go crab fishing, so down by my folks, they live by the sea and there's little estuaries that you can go and you can buy a bucket and you can buy a little spool and you can just go and fish for the crabs that are in this little estuary by the sea. When you get the bucket, it doesn't have a lid on it. You just fish out the crab, chuck it in the bucket, and then you fish out the next one. Now, by the time you've got, let's say 10 or 15 or however many crabs in this bucket, you'd never have to worry about them climbing out. Well, why not? Well, because every time a crab tries to climb up the side and get out of the bucket, a crab underneath it will grab it and pull it back down again. That's crabs in a bucket syndrome. That is to say, there's a certain mentality where if you see someone around you going, oh, right, that guy's doing well, that girl's doing well, I'll yank them back down into this here bucket that we're trapped in. So in this instance, you're like, okay, well, if that is the only conclusion that I can draw, if it's a fellow YouTube videographer trying to make his way and make inroads into popularity on YouTube, and I'm doing what I do, garnering some popularity, and he has the ability to stifle that, then rather than bracing against him, why don't we promote him? Try and make him our ally if he's currently our enemy. Now, that is with the assumption that this is as a consequence of his interaction. He's decided, no, if you come into one of my servers and I have the ability to shut you down, I will. For no other reason than you are more popular than I, and I don't want to see that be the case. I want to exceed your popularity. Therefore, I will attempt to bring you down, crabs in a bucket style, yank you back into this bucket that we are in. Now, we are somewhat in a bucket. Now, we are, that's Flat Earth Debate, attempting to escape that bucket. That is to say, the bucket is this paradigm of globe versus anti-globe under the title Flat Earth. And we're not anymore. It's just not the case that this is a scientific endeavour to brace against heliocentrism. We don't need to. You can lean into heliocentrism when you understand how Flat Earth is measured for it. But that is a rhetoric that is unique, if you will, to us. The connection between the requirement of heliocentric science, which it isn't, to utilise the flat earth geography. Most people are still in that old worldview, that old paradigm where they brace specifically against global rhetoric. But nevertheless, if we can make this person our ally, maybe give him some promotion, maybe he'll change his tone when we go into places like Flat Earth 24/7 or the English Hub. So when I mentioned specifically that the English Hub had kicked us out, I assume because it's an English reading forum, even though from memory it did have a Flat Earth section specifically that became hidden the moment we were rejected. But nevertheless, the servers that this particular individual is associated with, we seem to have the most trouble with. Now, if that is specific to that one individual, you go, well, okay, hopefully we can make you our ally. There's no need for anybody to brace against us. Now, I understand the gurus out there that don't want their newfound heliocentric knowledge to be undermined by the simple fact that Earth is measured flat in a geographical sense. But that is the reality. If you want the so-called notion of people coming to the subject of flat Earth en masse, then having them not require the humility or the humble requirements of saying, I didn't understand this and now I do, to say, I always knew it, and that being something that puts your nose out of joint because you feel like you are expressly the only means or conduit to this information, then yeah, I'm gonna annoy a certain amount of people by making that information, the newfound heliocentric rhetoric that flat earthers have, redundant. And it is. But that is literally the only way you can reach that stage where it's seen as a comedic endeavour, braced against with high degrees of vigour, and then accepted as having always been the case. To have people accept it as having always been the case, it must have always been the case. You can't just have this wishful thinking that people will come to the idea that Earth is not a sphere, because the sphere that we are currently leaning into in terms of its flat Earth prerequisite measurements is reliant on the geography of measuring Earth flat. Therefore, people can legitimately say, I always knew it was flat, because that was how it was always being measured, even if they are a heliocentrist. So we've, like I say, made a certain amount of enemies on our own side, and it'd be nice to just go, well, you don't need to be our enemy, just because we're going out and pointing out that Earth was, is, and always will be measured flat. Why would that require us to be muted, quite literally? Seems like our own side wants to censor us as much as the opposing side sometimes. In fact, in some instances, I find that the opposing side do a better job of promoting me personally than my own side do. You know, I'll be sooner betrayed, stolen from, fucked over in some capacity by my own side quicker than the opposing side will. Now, the opposing side, when they stay on topic, will brace against what we speak of in the subject matter arena, and their ad homs that go attached with it you can kind of almost ignore, because in some small capacity they'll be promoting me and what I do, even though it's in opposition to what I do, which is a requirement of that pond that we're trying to, you know, in the metaphor of crabs in a bucket, not a pond but a bucket, you know, trying to climb out of, because it's a category error. Anyway, right, we're in the flip
Nathan,
side.
Rick had popped in here when the minute you dropped off yesterday, and he did personally invite you to WWD today.
Who did, sorry?
Riggs.
Oh, Riggs said to come into Worldwide Debates, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just go in there. Well, I'll go in there on Monday. I mean, I'm now back in the Flipside Discord server, and we're already broadcasting live. I did suggest earlier that we go in Worldwide Debates, and we were umming and ahhing about it, but my intention was to go into Flat Earth 24/7 Discord so that I could promote that server. It's just unfortunate that you go in there and some sod just comes along and server mutes you for absolutely no reason. It's not like I'm in there swearing. I'm in a Flat Earth server as a Flat Earth subject matter expert, running a live show on Flat Earth, and some arsehole decides that they're going to server mute you for absolutely no reason. I just don't get it. I mean, maybe someone can make this make sense to me. I don't know.
You remember how Brian used to react to me when I was first bringing this up? Like the vitriol. Like, he called me a liar, you know? Said that I was an arrogant, what was it? Like I was being a snob about my information, you know?
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the simplicity of this and how much it bothers some people.
And John corrects, mate, as well. I was just going to say, I mean, a lot of people don't like change, and it's changed, hasn't it? You've been arguing for 10 years, or however long you've been doing it, Nathan, guys, and sticking to that feast of nonsense and debunking a globe. So that's sort of embedded in a lot of people, and now this is a change in dynamics. And some people do not like change. I've seen it in workforces where new things are brought in, or you've got to do something new, and it's, you know, for the company, or it's going to help. And people just, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. I'm staying as I am. I don't like change. And a lot of people just don't like change. So I think that's a little bit playing a bit of a part as well.
Well, I'm hoping that the new book will actually make a difference to that specifically. So as a consequence of the process of producing the book, it went through a quite severe alteration. Now, without focusing on the reasons and whys and wherefores of why that happened, by provenance, it ended up being that the former rhetoric of housekeeping had the incorporation of flat earth measurements interdispersed throughout each and every subject matter that was covered over the last 10 years on flat earth debate. Which is to say that if you are that guy that doesn't appreciate your newfound heliocentric knowledge that you have acquired to show how it is inconsistent with the world that you experience, being undermined by flat earth measurements, then go through the book, read the book. So there's a link below this video to my book called Measured Flat, and in that it goes through things like Earth curve. That is to say, the mathematics of an assumption that we have a geometric horizon at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That, in the Earth curve chapter, is broken down in a very old school way. But throughout the chapter, there is an interdispersion of the rhetoric that goes alongside that understanding. That is to say, when describing the distance, a flat Earth prerequisite horizontal measurement. It's noted alongside the information. So if you want to take what we are quite detrimental to, retrospectively speaking, about what we've done ourselves when we've argued previously against heliocentrism because of its redundancy, in the book, it's being used as an explanation for how the debate has taken place over the last 10 years, but includes the facts in the flat Earth measurement reality alongside the information. So that is to say, if you are that guru and can easily comprehend some quite complex heliocentric notions, you can also take on board how Earth being measured flat by prerequisite in those arguments, if you want to call them those positions, let's just call them arguments. They're not arguments, but let's just call them that. You can incorporate the devastating winning reality of your opponent's position being completely consistent with your own when utilizing old school debating tactics, old school debating rhetoric, old school flat Earth, that's anti-globe. Because, like I say, in the book, it incorporates the facts that Earth is measured flat at the appropriate points. So if you're talking about distance to a geometric horizon, you're talking about distance. Distance being a flat Earth measurement by prerequisite, and more importantly, by survey and measurement. So if you're annoyed that rhetoric is being left by the wayside here at Flat Earth Debate, and therefore you extend that annoyance to me personally and want to mute me in a Discord server, then maybe buy a copy of the book, because you'll see that it isn't actually as big a deal as you might think if you are one of those gurus that's currently annoyed with me on my own side. Because there is an incorporation of the rhetoric that could still keep that old school version of anti-globe alive and incorporate the winning, I hate to use the word, debating point. It isn't a debate, but that's why it's the winning point when you incorporate it. So you can continue sniffing your own farts, arguing about how the distance to the geometric horizon is overcome by some photography that you've got, but also recognise that whilst debating this, incorporating the fact that Earth is measured flat to have the discussion means you will never lose when arguing about a distance to a geometric horizon and comparing it to real-world photography. So it's one step above pointing out how the maths fails because it's an orthographic mathematics. Instead, it's saying this mathematics functions to an extent and is argued about with examples like McCall Lighthouse and the Isle of Man, but simultaneously was previously, past tense, ignoring the fact that every single aspect of the measurements used in the so-called debate were flat Earth measurements. So it incorporates, the book that is, Measured Flat, incorporates a lot of old school rhetoric into new school appreciation of how flat Earth is being measured. So check it out. Maybe it'll actually result in people going, well, actually, I might buy a copy then. Because as much as I'm irritated with the so-called redundancy that's being brought to the old versions of heliocentric knowledge acquired by flat earthers, it can still be incorporated and included if you want to continue to be in the debate. Maybe it's not recognised by you that that's because you want to be a guru. I hope we on the panel have all had this sort of introspection or self-awareness to recognise that that's exactly what it is. But regardless if you want to brace against your so-called guru status, understanding that you can incorporate the cutting edge of argumentation when it comes to flat Earth, because there is no longer an argument. But to understand it is to appreciate how it is incorporated into the old school style debates. So check it out. Go and buy a copy of Measured Flat, and then you can keep your guru status, your time learning about distances to geometric horizons being at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet isn't for nothing. I can leave it by the wayside, but it doesn't mean you have to. But you can, like I say, incorporate the fact that Earth's measured flat into that rhetoric and then win every single time you enter into a debate. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Which means Nathan. But yeah, well said, Nathan. It's funny you mentioned the Earth curve chapter. I enjoyed reading the Earth curve chapter this morning, to tell you the truth, and I made a little note on it saying I felt it was really well explained. I wrote down, and you went into the Riley criteria and the 1.22, and I've just put there, it's always pointing out the new rhetoric, how Earth is measured flat. And that was my notes on that chapter. I really enjoyed reading it. You brought everything together and used the old housekeeping rhetoric, but at the same time, you was pointing out, like you've just described, we're using a distance. It's a linear distance, so we've not realised this prior. So we're explaining and debunking the globe and using housekeeping questions when all the time we was describing within that paradigm how Earth was always utilised and measured flat. So yeah, I did really enjoy that chapter, and I also think from reading where I've got up to now, I think for an outside listener listening on YouTube or even in Discord and even on the panel, sometimes these things are being said in the servers, and it's happening very quickly and very fast. And you're saying these things sometimes over and over again. But I think when you read the book, you can read it at your own pace, and it becomes more clearer of what you've been demonstrating in a live sort of hashtag debate platform. So it's a lot more. It's like the penny might drop when you read it. It's like, oh yeah, that's what Nathan's been on about, and the guys, I can understand it now. He's pointing it out. This is why it's redundant, the housekeeping questions. We was always measuring flat all the time. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the book does summarise with the very first guest I ever had, or not the very first, but one of the very first guests I had on Flat Earth UK, an interview with Edgar Raven, as she's been called in the book, about her experiences finding out Earth wasn't spherical, like the lack of Earth curve between a transmission. I discussed this on yesterday's show. But the reason I've used her and her explanations for how non-spherical with a practical application of transmitters the world is because it really concisely explains how the rhetoric has fundamentally moved on by pointing out that 10 years ago, or however long it was that I interviewed Edgar Raven as a pseudonym is used in the book, that the rhetoric has gone from, I was up a hill trying to get a transceiver to work at a 25-mile distance for relays. That transmission didn't work because there was a mountain higher than me in the way of the transmitter, blocking the line of sight. I'm using quite a few different terms that I'm going to go back and unpack in a second. Therefore, the transceiver was turned to the original source 111 miles away to pick up a perfect signal. The explanation being given to me at the time was, that means, conclusion, no Earth curve in the way. Now the reality is, up a hill, measured from sea level, connecting to a different relay station with another part of another hill in the way, also measured from sea level to block your line of sight parallel to surface level. So therefore, the distance between you and the relay, measured linear on a flat Earth, didn't work because there was a height above sea level measured from a flat Earth in the way of you and that transceiver. Therefore, you turned your transceiver to the original point source, 111 flat Earth measured miles away from your altitude measured from sea level, to get a perfect signal. In other words, every part of the story becomes redundant as a consequence of knowing how every measurement applied to the story is being used from a flat Earth. So the last chapter is to summarise old school rhetoric by comparison to the now understood, if you've read through the book of course, flat Earth measurements that are used in all instances. In the case of this particular story, formerly concluded with therefore no Earth curve in the way, now concluded with every measurement of every part of this story was from a flat Earth. A far more effective and actual demonstration of Earth's flatness by measurement, not by lack of curve when using flat Earth measurements that are whistled past and not even acknowledged as being fundamentally reliant on Earth being measured flat. So that's the summary in the end of the book. That's the final chapter of the book with that summary. But as just pointed out by One Deck, the actual chapter on Earth Curve goes into it in far more depth with the debates that took place at the time with things like the Isle of Man, because we were spending considerable amounts of time, that's days, weeks, months, arguing about these distances measured on a flat Earth for the lack of Earth curve, which just to me now seems ludicrous and laughable.
Well, also
we should have.
Oh, 1 second. When she turned the transceiver in an arc, it was an arc along an azimuth to the original point source.
What do you say? It would arc along an azimuth?
From the transmitter and next in line to the point source, she turned it on an azimuth.
When you say arc, you mean like rotate around the central point of a compass in that description of azimuth? Is that what you mean by arc? As in arc around the degrees of the azimuth?
Yeah.
It just threw me when you used the word arc. Yeah, absolutely correct. So what John's saying is, if you're in this story trying to get your transceiver to connect and there's a mountain in the way, so here's the point of transceiver that you're trying to connect to in the relay, you're here and there's a mountain in between. When you turn back to the point source over there 111 miles away, you are turning through a degree of azimuth, horizontal. That is to say, you can only describe that transition from this direction, like I said at the beginning of the live show, to that direction with a flat earth prerequisite called azimuth. It is only horizontal. Yes, John. Shout out to I can never see because of the way I've got this screen scaled who it is. LJ69. Next book idea. Point out how globe is a religion. Yeah, that's very old school. Thank you very much for the super chat, first of all, LJ69. Really appreciate the support. Really appreciate it. And as far as I'm aware, you were also somebody who's just recently bought the book. So thank you very much for purchasing the book as well, LJ69. Yeah, it's old school rhetoric to point out that it's a religion. And it is. You know, the one world religion is heliocentrism. But at the moment, we are going a different route, which is leaning into the assertions, in this case with this particular anecdote at the end of my book, about a system of utilising flat Earth measurements in an Earth curve calculation. That is how flat Earth is required to be used to suggest sphericity, rather than saying Earth being a ball is a religion. It is, but now we're saying Earth being a ball requires flat Earth measurements. It's just it's a subtly different bracing into or leaning into rather than bracing against. Thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Eli.
And it's important because these pennies just haven't dropped. Just like, measurement is not, experiment in the way we would talk about in physics and experimentation and the scientific method. And that penny hasn't dropped for people at all. Even worse, as we've dove deeper into this discussion, we're like, you know what? Actually, the fact that it's been measured flat all this time has actually never been acknowledged openly, like in a real way, by any opponent. It's like the thing that they run away from. And because when they're out there with their audiences arguing against not what we've said to them, their audience doesn't hear it. They don't actually engage with it. And the thing that we're talking about in this book, All Roads Leading to Flat Earth, that is the one thing, the one aspect of the conversation almost nobody wants to talk about. They want to talk about the religion. They also now want to talk about the science or what science is not. They want to talk about space. They want to talk about the past. They want to talk about the future. What do we do? No one actually rests on the fact that we do know that it is measured flat, straight up and down, though, right? Because every time everybody wants to hear about these other things, it's as if they're trying to give validity to this very thing right here that we're saying is just a fact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's. I can't remember who said it earlier on the panel, but somebody said people don't like new information. or the old turn of phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. People are comfortable with the familiar. If you're familiar with saying Earth's not a ball, we don't have any Earth curve. I mean, when I say it's a conspiracy, in the pre-show we were saying, is it a conspiracy or is it just ignorance personified over a few hundred years from people in positions of power leaning into heliocentric rhetoric from the Roman Catholic Church, because that is currently the pinnacle of understanding the light movements. Regardless of its inconsistency with the flat earth measurements that create it, that's what they came up with, and that's what therefore people in power have lent into over these years. But is that a conspiracy? That was kind of what we discussed in the pre-show. So if you're a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, become one if you're not, then you'll be listening to this discussion off the back of that, obviously having watched the pre-show. But if you haven't, that's a brief summary of what we were discussing. But whether or not it's a conspiracy is to say, the people who have lent into it as though it's a conspiracy want to point out where the conspiracy creates the religion. And that's not the new school rhetoric of it was measured flat anyway. Now, when we've put that to people, the old dogs, if you will, they've said, well, no, I don't want to accept that anybody could come to this subject unless they come through somebody with experience, meaning me, the person I'm talking about in the third person, meaning them. Right? They want to be the guru that tells the person about how Earth's not a sphere with their exemplary understanding of sphere rhetoric and how it doesn't work. So making them redundant means that they don't like the idea of having to go through a new way of explaining this to next man when they're perfectly capable and already in the process of telling them there isn't any Earth curve. So an example of this was what I call conspiratorial in the pre-show when I was describing it. The idea of where's the curvature? That statement personifies the old school rhetoric. Where's the curvature? What do you mean, where's the curvature? If we answer it, the curvature comes from measuring Earth flat. That's where the curvatures come from. The distance to a geometric horizon is a flat Earth distance. So where's the curve at the end of a flat Earth distance? That's where it is. Well, how'd you measure it? Well, with a flat Earth elevation from sea level. That's where the curve is. But suddenly it loses its luster if you're telling people, no, there should be, really grinds my gears, a distance to a geometric horizon that we don't see. It's like, should be? Your inference that there should be an incongruent Earth curve at the end of a flat Earth measured distance is, to my humble ears, bonkers. Truly, truly bonkers. But if that's what you're putting out there, you won't want to hear us tell you that it's just measured flat. Nobody wants to hear that currently, or I hope that's a reasonable summary of what you're saying, Eli. Unless I've missed something.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't think Eli's responding, but yeah, how many hours and months did we all spend, going through the Black Swan with people? Yeah, not knowing that we was giving them a height of surface level. Yeah, we've given the distances to the rigs. Yeah, which is a linear distance. They would have been in some sort of direction, south, north, east, west, yeah, which is a horizontal distance. And then you've got the height of the rigs above sea level. So we was having this conversation, pointing out all them things, saying them very words I've just said, but not focusing on that fact that everything that you're saying within this, where's this geometric horizon, which the horizon has never been defined as a geometric location anyway, but that's another story. You're just pointing out all the flat Earth prerequisites to tell somebody where the non-geometric horizon is or isn't. And it's laughable now when you look, but we all did it. We've all done it.
Indeed.
Just think if you formulated that malformed question right into a modus ponens, you would have an emotional attachment to it that would make you resist, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, if you've taken the time to study and understand the logical consistency or inconsistency with a ball, then that takes a certain amount of effort and a certain amount of training. So in order to understand the Black Swan, it took a couple of years of repeating that rhetoric for people to finally understand it and start utilising it. But it was very much understood to be the undoing of sphericity in a claim format that's being undermined by a distance that's ignored as a flat Earth prerequisite and a height that's ignored as a flat Earth prerequisite, resulting in a ball that's inconsistent with photography. Now, in reality, now, a couple of years later, or 5 years later, or however long it's been since the Black Swan came out, 6 years, it's quite a while, you can actually turn around and go, no, what it actually allowed was the debate to continue, because you can still offer up a rebuttal, like refraction. Okay, so refraction being a flat Earth measurement prerequisite also. If you're going to describe how much the light is suggested to bend, then you're describing the deviation in the vertical from the distance in the horizontal. So to describe refraction requires flat Earth by prerequisite if you're going to measure it. Now, if you're going to suggest that it's terrestrial refraction, then you also need a flat Earth prerequisite derived R value that's also measured with respect to a plane. So now, a few years later, we're realizing how much we whistled past all of these flat Earth prerequisites in order to have the argument. And there isn't a need for an argument anymore. But that's going to be annoying to somebody who's gone out and learned that if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as laid down in Earth curve mathematics. And the distance to the oil rigs in the Black Swan imagery is beyond those limitations laid down by Earth curve mathematics. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959. Response from Mr. Sensible? Well, at best you've debunked the radius value. Refraction. You're like, okay, so the response is a flat Earth measured distance with a flat Earth derived deviation in the vertical. Okay. Oh, no, you mean terrestrial refraction. So 7/6 of a radius that's been derived from flat Earth measurements. Okay. So you've got quite a few flat Earth measurements as a prerequisite in your rebuttal. If we allow the distance to this geometric horizon, a flat Earth prerequisite linear value measured with every map and every scale ever produced ever, and the height, 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height of a flat Earth from sea level. As long as we ignore all those things, we can carry on arguing about the refraction that also needs a flat Earth to use it as a rebuttal. Seems silly when you break it down in hindsight. I'll use that as a plug. Go and buy my book. All of this is explained in the Earth curve, specifically in the Earth curve chapter of Measured Flat, with, as I've just done verbally, the highlighting of the flat Earth prerequisites needed to suggest we have an argument to go through the motions of modus tollens. If Earth's a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height of a flat Earth. And the distance to the horizon in the photography, distance being a flat Earth linear measurement to the oil rigs, is beyond the limitations of an Earth curve mathematics based on an R value that utilised prerequisite flat Earth to derive the radius value. There's quite a few flat Earth measurements in the modus tollens that we don't need anymore. But like I say, that's still summarised in the book. Go ahead.
The first time I mentioned that was a malformed question, I thought people were going to take my head off.
Yeah, but at the time, I don't think you would have been familiar with the prerequisite flat Earth measurements that were being utilised and incorporated into that particular modus tollens when it was originally put on the table. I doubt back then you understood how flat Earth was being measured by prerequisite in every element of it. Am I wrong? I mean, yes, I remember you saying it was a malformed question. Yes, I remember you coming under harsh scrutiny for saying it, but that wasn't as a consequence of understanding the flatness of the measurements used within it, was it? Unless you're going to tell me otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The linear function of all the measurements within is why, I said it was a straw man. The question was malformed.
You're well ahead of your time, John. Must have been frustrating. Everyone else was slower on the uptake than John while he was comprehending the prerequisite flat Earth linear distances. As
That's not
explained.
True. That is not true.
He's going to mention me now, aren't you?
What about Neil's poems?
Yeah, there were a lot of Globery-esque guys in our midst.
Hold on.
Let me know.
Hold on. I was right with you. I can't help it if you guys don't understand what a measurement is, but don't you dare.
Hey, who was the one saying level is horizontal? Nobody was willing to take that. Like,
Eli, you was on it too, Eli.
said, no, you guys, it's blisteringly more simple. Like for real. This is what I meant.
Yeah, to Eli and Neil's credit, they were the first two to approach me about it, and me and Elijah had talked about leveling horizontal prior to that. So, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Credit where credit's due. It was just me that was slow on the uptake then.
I mean, you were trying to get the housekeeping question that I was trying to form in there, but ultimately what I was saying is from the rip, they're measuring everything and judging everything off of horizontal, because if it's not that, how could they measure anything? Me and Brian argued till the cows came home about that.
Right. So you're, to put it in a more concise format, you're saying in order to have this discussion, we need flat Earth by prerequisite for all the measurements, and that was braced against when you were putting that on the table after discussing it with John, Eli.
Or all the guys. John was there. Neil was there. It was basically me, Brian, and Adam going back and forth, and them trying to tell me I didn't understand things.
Oh, they're globe sympathisers, clearly. They want to give the opponent the opportunity to beg the question. I vaguely remember that being the rhetoric that we were being told at the time. Like, no, we need to beg the question on their behalf. It's only fair.
And I was like, it's not begging the question. Level is horizontal. That's just a fact. And he's like, you can't assume that the whole earth is horizontal. I'm like, bro, level is hard. I don't know what you guys are saying. Like, I'm trying to, it's as clear as day. I don't know this, you know. They were trying to say I was trying to straw man people with, I don't know. I wish I could. No, that was after. That wasn't on tape, so we don't have it.
I wish we could go, like, if you want to, go back and listen to the year after the Black Swan was released, when 10th Man was going over celestial navigation. And I asked some of the dumbest questions. Like, they were just stupid. You know, just, I feel like an idiot now, you know.
Are these things a slow boat trying to turn, aren't they? You're trying to talk about an entire rhetoric that's built a little community around it. And changing that rhetoric isn't an easy task if you're trying to mobilise everybody. Now, beyond that, currently, I'm like, nobody needed mobilising. It was always being measured flat anyway. So we don't necessarily need to convert anybody. I mean, as much as I've encouraged people who are so-called gurus in the subject arena to take on board how measured flat Earth is, with an incorporation of old school rhetoric of all-believing ideas that were debunked in housekeeping questions, that is still the case. You know, it's still the case that it was being measured flat to produce the ball. It will be measured flat today to fly over a mountain, and it's going to be measured flat tomorrow from sea level, regardless of anybody's input. Like, we are utterly inconsequential when it comes to Earth's geography and its measurements. They are flat, regardless if we pass that on to next man. And the same applies to somebody who's coming out of a heliocentric worldview. Like, because we have this Roman Catholic view of the world from a point that's designed to be inside a ball on a plane with an extended celestial plane and a celestial sphere wrapped around you on that plane, is just a way of explaining how the lights move. So leaning into that and its flat Earth prerequisites means that you would understand implicitly how flat Earth must be for all geography and measurements, including but not limited to the ones that are being utilised by the heliocentric one world religion to have everybody believe they're on, as opposed to in, a sphere. Now, nobody's in a sphere to better explain the movement of what was formerly known as epicycles, now planetary retrograde motion. But that is all elliptical orbital motion gives us. A better explanation of what was formerly known as epicycles, now retrograde motion. But it is undermined, if you want to see it as a worldview where you're standing on the protractor you measured the world with, by the fact that there's a protractor with a flat baseline taking angles as shown on this diagram. That is how the world is dealt with. Now, where it says zenith has a little pretty map printed on it, and where it says meridian, you imagine the line being down for at least the prime meridian through Greenwich, you can understand how that diagrammatical example is a way of depicting you inside a sphere that later has a conversion applied to it from projections that produce a global, unscalable world that would change as you move around it if you were to look at the scale that it's projected onto that ball with. Now, that doesn't mean that you're on the ball, and you're certainly not in a ball. You can't be. But what you are, and is required, as this diagrammatical example, admittedly for sound as opposed to light, works, you require fundamentally a plane of reference to describe all of that with. That's to say, the underlying notions of heliocentrism, its foundations, if you will, are flat Earth measurements, and they always were. I hope people do, like the gurus, the people that we are currently being braced against. I hope people hear what I'm saying currently, which is not just a call for people to line my pockets by providing me with money by buying the book, but by recognising the quality of the information held within, when they can take on board that which they already knew as a anti-globe or flat Earth proponent, as so previously described, and incorporate the facts in the matter, that's the flat Earth measurements, into their old school rhetoric, and hopefully evolve it into the reality of the geography of Earth's measurements, whilst incorporating their own guru status, having now learnt certain heliocentric aspects, or logical consistency in the case of modus tollens, like we were just discussing. Go ahead. Someone want to add something? Feel free. But you, Harp. I heard somebody make a noise.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, not to worry. I'll just do a plug. So, in case you were unaware, as of about 24 hours ago, my book has been released. So, Measured Flat is now on sale. So, if you did want to pick up a copy, there is a link below this video to go and buy a copy of Measured Flat, the book that we've been discussing for about the last 20 minutes. And hopefully a few more copies will sell. It's sold exceptionally well in the first 24 hours. So it's edging its way towards 100 books already sold. Delighted that all of the people who are closely associated to me have already purchased it. I think it was assisted by the fact that we're right on payday now. Now it's Friday. I don't normally mention the day, but it is literally most people's payday today. So I think over the last 24 hours, people have been paid and then immediately gone out and bought a copy, which is fantastic. I am absolutely delighted with the amount of sales. Also, I'm delighted with the amount of people who've signed up to be an affiliate and sell it on my behalf, and obviously earn their 30% commission for doing so. But there's been quite a few people who've actually started going through the process. A couple of people have also got in touch and said, I've been unable, or for whatever reason they've not managed to fathom how to do that. And it isn't a very complicated process, but there was a couple of people who have also struggled whilst trying to become an affiliate, and I have tried to address their issues and concerns as best as possible, although generally speaking I'm going to direct them to the publisher because it's his affiliate program, albeit of benefit to me. But there has been several people that have already signed up as affiliates, and there's already affiliate links for the book out there, which I'm amazed considering it's only been 24 hours. So there are already affiliates, which is great news, because obviously that sort of success breeds other success, and other people want to join the affiliate program and earn their 30% for selling the book, which is the same amount I earn. So if you were to join us, the affiliate in the affiliate program, you could earn the same as I do as the author when you sell the book with a link via your affiliate, connection or QR code or whatever it is that you use to publish the book, and gain some commission for doing so. So thank you very much to everybody who has already signed up as an affiliate. Another massive thank you to everybody who has purchased the book. Delighted with it. It's doing really, really well immediately. Like I say, it's only been out for 24 hours and it's sold bucket loads of copies already. So I'm really, really pleased. A bit of an update in terms of people saying, is there going to be a hard copy? At the moment, no. There is no plans to make an Amazon version. And one of the reasons, along with other reasons, to go exclusively through the publisher that I have, is because of his exceptional DRM, so digital rights management. So a little nod and a wink to those of you who've decided to steal copies of the book, a testament to how desirable something is. So I think in yesterday's show, in the after show, someone was saying that certain books get stolen, like the Bible, and how to beat an alcohol problem, like Alcohol Anonymous. Anonymous, is that the right word? Self-help books, basically, for people with an alcohol problem. Those get stolen quite frequently because they're highly in demand and highly sought after, so people steal them. So it brings a wry smile to my face that certain people have already decided that they want to pilfer the books. I'm very pleased that the publisher has got exceptional, like the highest quality DRM that's available, which is good. So yeah, there's going to be always a notion of somebody wanting to steal something that is desirable, and it, so like I say, brings a wry smile to my face that the book is desirable enough for people to want to steal it. Now obviously I don't encourage that, piracy being theft, and there are certain people who have literally gone out of their way to self-snitch and highlight themselves as thieves already, which it just baffles me how stupid people can be from an opposing side, that they literally want to broadcast the fact that they're a thief. But there we go, that's life.
You gotta roll with the
That's
you have to
funny.
roll with the way things are, Nathan.
Absolutely.
There's a middle class, there's a rich first class, and there's a fourth class, and everyone operates in the way that however their mind works. And I will be honest and tell you, I have always pirated music and always pirated I've been born into the age of going to the corner and getting your favorite CD for $5 from the bootlegger. Same thing with movies. Until you get older and you get a job and you appreciate, oh, these people are artists and they're doing this thing to live and survive. And then, hey, okay, you know what? I really appreciate this artist. I want to buy their work. What I'm trying to say is, though, it's still important that the people who won't buy it will be talking about it. That still counts as far as the conversation being propelled is concerned.
Absolutely. Other news with regards to the book, that is specifically, is I've been contacted by a Dutch translator who wants to actually translate the book into Dutch. So I've said in previous shows that there may be some translated versions that will also go onto the same website. So the audiobook is in production. That'll be the next thing to come out. And then hopefully after that, there'll be a Dutch version. And then there are a couple of other translators that will hopefully get back to me in due course and say that they want to also provide me with translated versions of the book. Now, unfortunately, I don't have $1,000 to pay a translator to do it, so I am at the whim of anybody who is willing to offer me their services in that regard. But like I say, so far, Dutch translation's going to be on the table in the next few months, hopefully, as well. So I'm delighted that at least one of the translators has got back to me. So they will also be available on the exact same website. So just to clarify, or just to summarise what I've just been through, the hardback or paperback versions aren't on the horizon as it stands. Now, that might change in the future, but as it stands, there are no plans to do that. It will be exclusively available as an ebook. And then the next thing that will be on the horizon, or the next thing that will be released on the same site, is an audiobook version. So somebody will do a VO version of it, and that will be another copy that you can buy or download so you can listen to it in your car when you're travelling to work or whatever, rather than actually reading it. So that'll be the next thing that's, like I say, in production. And following that will be, at the very least, a Dutch version, hopefully, and hopefully other translated versions. So that's the order of things, because it's probably the most common thing. When the paperback comes out, I'll buy a copy. That's a fairly common thread that I get in the comment sections of the videos that I've been making over the last 24 hours. So it's not like there's been loads of them, but at least half a dozen people have said that. Say again?
For the audiobook, could we hire Will Smith or Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Or Barack Obama? Just anybody black. Look, I'm black. I can do it. That will be something else as well, as you've mentioned it, right? So me being black, irrelevant, and aside from that, I will also do an audio version at some point. So I'll dig out one of my microphones, plug it up to my desk, and do whatever you'd call it, voiced by author version. But that'll be a lot further down the line. Like there is a professional VO guy who's doing it currently, which isn't me. So I've never done voiceover. But it is something I'm capable of doing. I'm in a fully treated studio, so I should be able to produce or at least pull off a voiceover version by the author, me, of a reasonably high standard. So that will be something I'll also do, just not now. The other thing to keep you updated, as it was discussed in the pre-show, I may as well bring it up now on the live stream, and that is to say that there will be a press release. Now, that won't be immediate. I don't want to just send out a mail merge version that will go into people's spam folder. So the 100 or so people that I've got on a contacts list to get in touch with people, so Vinny, who's associated with Killer Priest and Bro Sanchez and a few other shows, was discussing this with Eli, hence it came up in the pre-show. But those, including Vinny, are on the list, and there has been a few, maybe a dozen or so people that are also on the mail out list for the press release that I've contacted personally and said, by the way, just for you personally, a heads up that the book is now available, and you'll also be getting a press release in that regard. But each of the press releases I want to be sent out, admittedly not by me, by my wife, to them one at a time. So it will take a fair bit more time to actually get in touch with people. So if you already are aware that you were on the press release list or you were expecting to get a press release from me, you will. I just don't want to send it with 100 other people on the same mail merge. I want it to go to you as an individual. So you're contacted and it'll be, Dear X, the book is now available, the affiliate program is X, and Nathan will be in touch with you in due course to arrange a time to come onto your show. Sort of a presumptive close, they call it. And that'll be from Paula, and, hopefully that will result in a back and forth being generated for me to then eventually go on that particular individual show and start doing the rounds and actually promoting the book in that way. So if you're expecting to get an immediate press release, you won't, or you might be the first person on the list. But what I'm saying is we will work our way steadily through the list, because I think that's a much more effective way of actually getting people to pay attention to it. If you're just part of a 100-strong list that gets a press release, it's much easier to ignore. Whereas if you're addressed as an individual by name on an individual email to you, that, in my past experience in sales, works far better. You're much more likely to get someone's attention doing it in that way. So that is what we will do. It just takes a lot longer, obviously. If you just stick everybody in the mail merge list and press send on a press release, everybody allegedly gets it straight away, right? Well, no, half of them get it in their spam folder and don't get it at all. The other half go, oh yes, I'll get to that in due course. But if you just contact them on an individualistic basis, people are like, oh, this person's contacted me personally, and that's how I want to do it. So if it takes a month to go through distribution of the press release, then so be it, because I think it will be a more effective way of actually getting me on these random YouTube shows or wherever it is I end up going, if I'm to contact them personally or have my wife contact them personally rather than sticking them on a mail merge. So that's the only other thing I think in regards to the book. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you'll actually buy a copy. Is there anything else anybody wants to add about the book? Hopefully a couple of you at least read a few chapters. I know One Deck has gone through a little bit of his reactions thus far, positive that it was. Anybody else got any reactions? If not, I'm going to round out this live show. 71 people watching, please share the show. No? Any more comments? No? In that case, I'll say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. What a week.
Yeah.
You know what makes me crazy?
What?
I have no work this whole freaking time, and the book doesn't come out. Now the book comes out, and I got freaking work, and I can't say anything with this guy. He could be 50 fucking feet away, and I say something. What? What do you say? Are you on that phone? It's like fucking really annoying, man. He's hard of fucking hearing, but he hears me.
When you say 50 feet, would that be a linear distance?
Yeah, horizontal linear distance.
Exactly. Just frustrating, man.
What's going on with 24/7? I'm slightly lost for words in that regard. Middle of a live show,
Nathan, that guy does not like you. If you remember, he came on and he outright told you to your face. Talked about the fisting and all of that stuff. Now, he goes in Gem Pandas when he knows you're there because he's freaking spying out what you say and to use it against you. Well, listen to how he talks over there.
If you are shouting that loud, Neil, I mean, it's not a surprise he can hear you.
It's not surprising your boss has got an eye out for you. What are you saying, Neil?
But I didn't jump in while about 2:10, so he was talking. I mean, I suppose he was just discussing things nice and calmly and peacefully. I don't think there was any sort of Globers coming in to tell you anything stupid, was there, or any so-called debates or arguments. So there wasn't many people in there, though, I noticed. There was only about 4 or 5 people in there. But why someone would mute you? But this DJ guy, is he the one who sits with Mark Sargent? I think it is, isn't it? I think sure that's him.
No, it's not.
No, he's not. I got blamed for that shit. He's not the same guy. DJ's the asshole with the freaking Australian accent. And I'm speaking loud because I'm in my car going to the next job. The asshole's not next to me.
Don't say that. He might listen in on the show one day and then hear how you're describing him.
So it's not Mark's.
No, it's not. It's not the DJ guy with the great big wraparound silver glasses and the crazy shiny silver hat. No, it's not the same guy. Which I'm glad about.
I thought it was.
I'm glad it isn't, because I didn't want any. You know, I'm going to be one of the people on the list is Mark Sargent that's going to be getting a press release.
Yeah,
I don't want to be.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't want there to be animosity between me and his co-host, and there isn't, which I'm delighted about. I've got to be honest. Like, obviously, nobody wants to be server muted when you're in some random server promoting it, but there we go.
But I know. I think that DJ guy on politics, and I know he's had. I mean, people say he's he's supposed to be a flat earther, but I know people are, you know, calling him out for a baller.
One deck. He is the freaking guy that loves to talk about refraction and refractive indexes. Okay? This is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So everything Nathan says is an affront to him.
But it's just like, that's exactly what we've said today, isn't it? People don't like change. The minds have been working this way for 10 years, 8 years, however long it is, and there's a new rhetoric which simplifies everything just down to the measurement, which everybody's always been using, but it's not been noticed until now-ish, or the last year or so, or 3 years, or whatever it is. And people don't like it. It was... Refracted said it before. He was challenged with Brian on the show. You know for a fact, Neil, I was challenged by Brian. When I just stepped in and mentioned something, I was shut down. So this is what happens. But also, just to go on from that, we've said it before. I wasn't like that, but I was thinking, what's going to happen now? We was in a lull. I think I called it a lull, or we're in a changing of a phase. Something's going to happen. I was saying it months ago, and it happened. And I was like, what's going to happen now then? But from the last few weeks, you can see Nathan's going into the shows. He's letting the ballers describe how Earth is measured flat, and he's joking around with it. And you've still got discussion, you've still got banter, and you've still got entertainment. So it's still happening. We've got a book out now, which I've explained before. I think it'll be a lot easier for these people who are pushing back. Once you read this book in your own time and pace, it's there. And Nathan's doing it every opportunity while talking about the old rhetoric and the housekeeping questions, like we've discussed on the show regarding, for example, the Black Swan. You're just using flat earth measurements all the time, whatever you're talking about to do with the globe. Because the globe is derived from flat earth measurements. It always has been.
I do hope there is some cross-pollination with the old school guard of flat earth / anti-globe, and that they do buy a copy and realise that they can incorporate the winning rhetoric, because it's no longer a win or lose situation if you understand the measurements and how flat they are. But having that incorporated into the old school descriptions of, gravity and Earth curve and whatever, distance to the sun, all the old housekeeping questions were based around old school rhetoric. So I can only assume, or not assume, I know that anybody who's in the last 6 months braced against us as a consequence can actually take the value from the new rhetoric and incorporate it into the old because of the way the book's been written. I'm so delighted with how the book came out, by the way. It's hard to say it when you're waiting for it to be released, because you're talking about something and how fantastic it is when nobody can say, well, actually, I've read it and it's a load of old crap. You know, when it's out, you can say, I can now say, current tense, that I am so delighted with the way it's phrased in all these regards. Like today, being able to say somebody like that DJ, as he's the subject of today's discussion in that regard, being muted in 24/7, that somebody like that could pick up the book and still take a high degree of value, even though we're bracing against them in the live shows and saying that they're the old school guard and that their, you know, arguments are redundant, which is still true, but are still capable of being incorporated into the old school way of discussion and win every single time. And I hope that sentiment gets echoed. That is to say, people pick up on the fact that they can, you know, expand out their rhetoric and their argumentation stance by reading the book, even the people we're braced against.
Yep. And that's what I feel. And you mentioned, not calling gin, you mentioned gin earlier. That's why I'm just choosing gin, because, you know, you wanted to do it that. So what you're saying, Nathan, is you can still, if you want to be talking to a newbie or you're trying to convert somebody or talking about this topic, you can still talk about, like you say, the distance to the sun. Yeah. And explain it how you've explained it in the book, that, you know, regarding the presuppositions and, you know, you've got to presume Venus has the same radial value, which a radial value is a flat Earth measurement. So it's like explaining, how can I word it? It's like when you're trying to, you're explaining to your child how things, when you're an older person and you explain to a child, this is how things used to be back in the 60s, we used to do this and that, and then now things have changed. You see, you're telling them how things used to be, but then also at the same time how things have changed now, and it's also much simpler and easier. So you can still talk about the two things entwined, which is exactly what is how it's written in the book. God, I'm waffling on, aren't I?
No, I'm glad it's being summarised in the way you are summarising it, because I want it to be universally accepted. So, and that's a difficult feat, because as we've moved on and moved away from housekeeping, you go, well, if we're bracing against the old school way of doing things, that's only ever going to put people off. And you go, well, no, that particular individual can read the book and go, I understand how this distance to horizon works. I'm very familiar with the quote-unquote argument. But then if every other line you're reading, which is using a flat Earth distance, which is using a flat Earth height, which is using parallel eye level, if you're reading that every third line, it can't but sink in and be of assistance to somebody who's in a debate. Now, the fact that we're saying on the live shows there is no debate it's notwithstanding the old school rhetoric incorporated into the new school measurements in the book. So, like I say, I really do hope that it doesn't disappoint somebody who's old school anti-globe, because they'll still take a huge amount of value out of it. So I can encourage literally everybody to read it without going, oh, well, you might not want to read it because you're an old school anti-glober and you won't like it. Far from it.
Do you remember when Brian was trying to make his point about on a globe, the tangent plane GP is nowhere, like, is out in space? Do you remember when he was, and I kept on saying, dude, you're not getting an elevation angle from a globe. Like, there is no point of reference for a globe, you know?
Yeah, very old school. To say the GP's out in space, right. You're like, no, the GP's on the ground. It has nothing to do with being out on a tangent plane. It's completely incongruent with what a GP is. But there it is again, with the rhetoric being described as how it doesn't work on a tangent plane out in space. Like, who cares how it doesn't work?
Right. That's going to be the hardest part, because he attacked me as if I was trying to subvert his point with and that I was being a butthole about it. And like he had everybody behind him too. Like everybody, like even Elijah come after me for a minute until he got what I was saying, you know, because the primary point is that the measurement is taking from a flat earth. Why are you trying to put a sphere under it if you're a flat
Precisely.
earth?
Just because they have used flat earth measurements to produce a sphere, and that is the conspiracy version of that I was suggesting in the pre-show. The conspiracy is to set people against globe. So one side says it's not a globe, the other side says it is a globe. So in this case, we've got one side saying you can't have a GP out on a tangent plane. Why are you saying what you can't have? What we do have is ground positions on a flat plane. That's it. That's what it is. Let's not worry about what it isn't. But that's the, like I say, conspiratorial version, as much as you might suggest it's organic or whatever. You know, it is set in opposition to globe belief. So we've got, you are on a globe and you're not on a globe. And you're like, no, neither of those things are relevant. It is measured flat with a plane and a GP on that plane.
I would say it's the malformed way of saying it, because it doesn't, if you understand the measurement, it doesn't make sense why you would be putting a sphere underneath it. You know what I mean? It just,
well, it's like if you're in a garage and you're dealing with somebody's petrol engine car, and the mechanic comes out and goes, well, you don't have to worry about the regen when we do your brakes. You go, what are you talking about? Well, there's no regen in your car. It's not electric. It doesn't have regen. You're like, okay, have you fixed the brakes? That's because I don't care what you haven't done or what it doesn't have. Why are you telling me about it not having regen? I don't care. Did you fix the brakes?
right. That's a better way of putting it. Like, I was having trouble getting that across to people, I think, is that don't tell them what's not. Who cares what's not? If you're in a what is topic, tell them what is.
Exactly. You know? What is the world? How is the world being measured? It is being measured flat. Go ahead, whoever that is in Discord.
Someone must have been hot micing, but yeah, Nathan, exactly. That's what we say. We don't need to talk about definitions or meanings of words. We can just explain, and it's demonstratable how Earth's measured. Just go and stand by a surveyor, ask him about what equipment he's using and what is he measuring when he's surveying the Earth that we stand atop. He'll be measuring vertical and horizontal angles. He'll be measuring distances. So in practical application, Earth is being measured flat. Doesn't matter what a definition of a word is. Do you know what I mean?
You know, even in the unpractical applications, it's still measured flat. As crazy as that sounds. Like, if you're going to calculate orbital values, you still got to measure it flat for them.
Yeah, true, John. So yeah, there's no escaping the facts of the matter, and that all comes down to because we live on a level plane. You know, we've been given sea level as the starting point for all measurements, and it's level. That's what we've been dealt. That's what we've had to work with, and it was a level plane. Sorry, I mean a level plane.
Well, you know, if you think about it, like if you've ever asked anybody what direction their home is, have you ever had somebody point at the ground?
No.
Like at an angle, you know what I mean?
Or in the sky, up from the plane. Yeah.
You guys just don't understand reciprocal zenith angles. That's all I got to say.
I understand what
they're angles, aren't they?
Reciprocal requires that you describe the differential from a plane of reference, if you're suggesting that zenith defies its own axiom of being 90 degrees to a plane by having a different zenith deviate from it, then you need an overall plane to describe how much they deviate. It's like when they describe the bridge. So they say the bridge is perpendicular. Like, okay, well, if it's perpendicular, then it is at 90 degrees to the plane. But then they contradict themselves and say, no, it's actually leaning away from the other tower for the bridge. Therefore, it's a reciprocating zenith angle. It's perpendicular to a point on a ball. Like, now you've defied the axiom of perpendicularity to suggest that there's a deviation of the angle. So to describe a deviation, you need a master reference to describe it deviating from. To say that it's perpendicular means that it is axiomatically tied to a plane at 90 degrees anyway. When you say that it's perpendicular to a point and deviating from a different perpendicular to a point, then neither are perpendicular and the difference comes from a plane. It's like there's about 3 or 4 flat earth prerequisites when you say reciprocating zenith angles.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
but you're not a surveyor, though. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the surveying trick that they use is they'll take 2 theodolites, right? They'll put them 100 yards away, and they'll measure their height with respect to the plane of reference. They'll level their tool with respect to the plane of reference, and then measure to the distant theodolite, and it will appear to be slightly lower. Okay. And then from the other side, it'll appear. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say something,
John.
but you kept going. No worries.
Go on, John.
I'll go.
From the other theodolite, it will appear to do the same thing. And they'll say that's because of Earth curve. But at no point in time did you ever measure Earth curve. All you ever did was measure with respect to a plane of reference.
One of the biggest issues, can you guys hear me okay? I'm on a job site, so it's kind of loud. Can you hear me? Are you guys able to hear me?
Yep. I can hear you.
Okay. I was going to say, one of my biggest gripes that I used to have every time these globe tards, every time they're like, oh, reciprocal zenith angles proves a globe. That tells me they have no idea what they're talking about or what they're even used for. Because in reality, if you ask them, what do they use them for? The only reason why they do that is to reduce that calculation, because it helps them home in on the refraction. So the only reason why they do it is to get an angle calculated, so that way they can be a little bit closer when they take their 10 shots and then they do their median. But these fucking idiots, sorry for cussing, these idiots, they don't know what they're talking about. They always bring that up. Reciprocal zenith angle is. No, they don't know what they're talking about. It frustrates me to the fullest, but they don't know how they're talking about. But I just want to say that real quick.
Well, I mean, it's not only that; it's worse than that, because they're always using angles to suggest that they're measuring curvature. Like John's just pointed out, there's no example of them ever measuring curvature. They never speak about it. They only talk about horizontal, vertical angles, height from sea level, altitude, azimuth, zenith angles. It's all requiring 2 straight lines. That's all they talk about.
Yeah, true. And it's derived from a 90. And that's what they cannot grasp. They're like, it's not a 90. They're not even using the ground. It's like, exactly, you idiot. But it's still, you're going to get that angle because you're saying my vertical, and then you have a ground at your feet. You've created the 90. They just don't get it. They're just idiots. And it frustrates me, dude. That's why I actually left Discord and the whole globe flat earth talk altogether, because these idiots were just, they were too stupid. I got too frustrated. For my own health, for my own well-being, I had to take a step back and be like, man, I'm done with these idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. And they're just spewing lies, and people believe them. And they're like, yeah, they support them. I'm like, man, these guys are idiots. They don't know what they're talking about.
But like John's just
Yeah.
pointed out, mate, and it's explained in Nathan's book clearly now that they are, when they describe anything like that, and Nathan's pointing out in the book, and it's much easier and better to read that way, that they are, like John's just explained, the level in the tool, they've got to the plane, they measure in an angle, a distance between the two angle measuring stations. So everything that they'll be saying when they're describing what they're doing, they will be describing how they require a horizontal plane to then suggest that they're measuring curvature. They will point it out for you. So just let them speak, and they will be measuring Earth flat anyway, because that's all they can do. It's in the book anyway.
Did you
get the book? Buy the book.
Did you hear? Hey, did you hear that debate? Or it wasn't a debate. It was Ruhiff preaching for 25 minutes, and then them talking over me for like 2 hours, and me laughing at them. But I tried to tell Ruhiff that the horizon was horizontal. He agreed. Yeah, of course the horizon's horizontal, right? And then I explained to him how vertical was intrinsically tied to the horizontal. And the horizon is where sea level meets the sky. And we use that as our reference for, taking perspective and putting it in a measurement. And like he started denying that the horizon was horizontal.
Yes. So do you guys not understand the wag the dog situation where they started changing all the definitions so that they can literally look in these encyclopedias from the 50s and 60s and see that level is now curved? And everything else that they talk about, they're getting from actual encyclopedias.
Well, I said that before. They like talking about definitions, but in practical and non-practical applications, when they're talking about anything to do with measuring the Earth or surveying, the definitions are irrelevant because everybody is measuring Earth flat, and they're measuring angles, vertical, horizontal, and distance with angle measuring tools. Which
right. Geometric damn it, there's a word for that, like parts of geometry, they're defined elements. Geometric elements are defined axiomatically by their properties, not by definitions.
Yeah, they can shove your definitions up your ass, basically.
Well, you can say that all day long, but they say you could shove your definitions up your ass in return. It's an ongoing, never-ending argument that will never end.
Just don't get into definitions. Just tell them how things are actually measured in practical reality. Explain about surveying or using a compass and a map out in the wilderness.
Well, and the thing is, they can't understand that the definitions are contradicting each other. You can't have no part above the other and curved. You can't do that. I saw that going on in one of these shows past, and I couldn't believe that they can't understand elevation, and that you can look up on your phone these days where you're standing, what the elevation from sea level is. I mean, it's just common factual knowledge. But the way they have defined things in these dictionaries and what they're doing nowadays, they're giving everybody the ammo to say, yeah, it's curved means horizontal.
All you got to do is look at a builder's level. I mean, that's level. A builder's level is level. End of story.
Right. But then as you go on, you don't have a level that's long enough to actually contort with the curve of the Earth. So just, eventually it's curving.
But that's
no, it's not.
say that a segment of a horizontal line stops being horizontal when you reach its end.
That gives them a lot of problems. Where does it start curving? One of the things that gives them good problems because they have no answers. They have no answers. And like APOC was saying earlier, they don't know how to use these tools and they don't know how they're used.
Well, it's supposed to be curving away at 8 inches per linear mile squared, which has got nothing to do with curvature.
Yeah, well, level is deviating from level at the rate of level, and once you understand that, you can talk to them again.
There's no drop over run. We know that. When the Black Swan came out 6 years ago, they just started yelling refraction, and that's exactly what you would expect to see on a globe. They just dealing with delusional people that you're never going to win against. The only thing you're doing that is good is showing people that are listening, with an open mind, seeing, my God, these people are nuts. But listen what they're saying. I got to rethink this shit. And you'll get one every 1,000 people, maybe. There's very few intelligent life, forms left on this earth. I'm telling you straight up right now. Getting bad.
I don't know if he was in the show earlier, went through that Black Swan, and now we used to argue, but then all through describing it and talking about it, you are actually, just describing the flatness and levelness of Earth with the, the distance to the rigs is a linear distance. The height of the rigs is a vertical height from sea level.
Correct.
Yeah.
All we've ever done is talk about flat measurements for years now.
Yeah, but we didn't realize it when we was arguing the Black Swan at the time. We didn't have to argue where the non-geometric horizon was because we was already mentioning the height of the observer above sea level. The distance to the rigs, which has been measured and mapped, linear horizontal distance. That's all you needed to know.
At the time, yeah. And then the navigation came and it's flat. And then the aviation came and it's flat. And it's all flat. Radar, everything. Yeah. It's all flat, line of sight. Period.
Yeah, it's always been that way. It didn't come. It just wasn't noticed or it wasn't being spoken about. It's always been that way. It's always been measured flat. It's always been navigated and used as a stationary plane, like you've just pointed out. So it's always been there. You're just highlighting it now and drilling down on the simplicity of what this place is and how it's measured.
Right.
The
Dubay just
Earth
put out a
curve
video
calculator
with 50 documents that the government uses Earth as flat. Every instance of everything they friggin' do, they use the Earth as stationary and flat, non-rotating. Very strange.
Well,
it's not strange because it's not strange because that's what you have to do.
Well, very strange that people don't get it.
That Earth curve
you show them these documents,
right?
And they say, yeah, well, that's because it's just easier to do. Like, dude, are you not understanding that if we lived on a ball and we were doing shit according to flat stationary Earth, it would fuck everything up. You wouldn't be able to do it. You would have to understand how to do things according to the spinning water ball. You would have to. You can't. It's just not flat because it's so big, and we can't feel any kind of motion because we're going with it. That's the literal, reasoning. You don't feel 1,000,000 miles an hour because we're going with it. That's like, I don't know. If you're understanding anything and you're still delusional enough to believe the craziness of flying through a vacuum of space, I think they reduced it now to 1.3 million miles an hour. When I started out in 2015, it was 3.5 million miles an hour, by the way. It has been reduced.
That space is length, width, and height. The concept of space itself necessitates a plane of reference.
The plane of reference would have to be in space.
Right.
Yeah.
Space, the concept of length, width, height necessitate a plane of reference. They
Right,
are with
that's
respect to a plane. So why are we talking about space with these morons? They think there's outer space, which is completely it's an oxymoron. There's no outer when you're talking about length, width, height. You're talking about up, down, and azimuth.
Yeah, that's it. They're into Star Trek, and they're more like imagining these big balls flying through space. That we're on one of them.
But
I don't know why you need to do that.
Space. But just to appeal to space, they need a plane of reference. I really want to get that one dug into them. That'll drive them nuts.
But see, they're imagining balls flying through space. They're not imagining reality. Reality is gone for them. There is no reality. If you believe that you're traveling through an infinite vacuum of space at 1.3 million miles an hour, then you're just lost. If someone comes to you and makes you understand that this is what they're telling you is happening, they're spinning 1,000 miles an hour and all this other craziness, and you're going through an infinite vacuum of space at 1.5 million miles an hour, but you don't feel anything. That takes a delusional idiot to believe.
Well, even their delusion necessitates a plane of reference. Like if you really want to drive them crazy, make them understand that. Because then they won't even be able to think about space without remembering it's with respect to a plane.
Oh, my mic's run out of battery. I agree with the sentiment or sentiments currently being discussed.
What that guy
You
just
have no
said
clue what
is
we're talking about.
Hold on, what that guy just said, my ears.
Neil, I didn't hear you. Did anybody else hear Neil okay?
It was
said-
very muffled. I was going to say
mumble,
it.
mumble, 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 something like that.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Just said hurts to my ear. Shut up and listen. What that guy just said is an offense to my ear. Heard that?
What guy just said?
The idea of
I don't know what you just said. I was away making a cup of coffee and my radio mic ran out of battery.
What I thought. What guy said was an offense to your ears?
Maybe we'll never know.
You!
What did I say? Hey.
Good
Alrighty
talk.
then.
Glad we cleared that up.
Goldfish torturer.
Can anybody fill us in? I've stepped away for 2 minutes and the conversation's been killed.
Well, it was going until Neil just, farted all over it.
Can you fill us in, Neil?
I can't. I'm working. If you don't, if you're going to ignore me, moving through space at 1,000 miles an hour, bullshit, and go ahead. That just hurts my ears. Whatever you said.
Radio check.
Yes, we.
Okay. Yeah, I understood that.
Yeah. Neil, I was going to ask you, is the idea of traveling on balls through an azimuth, is that an affront to your ears?
Negative. I heard something about moving at 1,000 miles an hour is just ridiculous. That's all I heard.
Oh, like the mods
thousands-
back in the day would come in and hear part of my conversation and mute me because they had no fucking idea what was going on.
Try not
Is
to
that
swear.
right, Neil?
Just try not to swear, please.
Sorry. But, you know.
Oh, I didn't
don't
know it
piss
was
me
Hawk.
off and
I thought it
expect
was
me
some
not to come
strange.
back.
Hopefully, we can get this conversation rolling in because I'm going to finish off my coffee.
Yeah, you better, because I'm going to go somewhere you don't want to go.
How wonderful. Whoever killed this conversation, thanks a bunch. Okay, so I'll have to round out then.
Well, no, I'm having radio trouble, man. Chill. I missed the last few sentences. My internet keeps kicking out.
Okay then. Is this the end of the show? I think it is.
Is Neil still there? And who was the other guy speaking? Was that Harp?
That was Harp, but Neil's working, so for whatever reason he's jumped in, killed the conversation completely, then disappeared to work, which is fine, I guess. Other than I'm now like at the point where I'm gonna have to round out the show because we're literally just sitting in silence because I've disappeared to make a coffee for 2 minutes and I don't know how to carry on the conversation that's been killed by Neil.
Oh, well, it's partially my fault too because my internet keeps dropping because I wanted to ask some more questions, but I would like Harp to restate his last thing he said, if he would. Or one deck, whichever one spoke last.
Right, I'm going to round out. With that, I'm going to say another huge... What? Was somebody going to actually carry on the conversation? Because if not, I'm going to round out. I can't sit here with silence.
I'm really trying to. I don't think anybody's going to oblige me. And I'm not really good at talking to myself. And
Can I get a mic check?
Yes.
Mic check.
Hello.
I've just been speaking for the last... no one's been hearing me. I've been listening to you guys, and I had to just nip out. I heard the conversation went to pot, something about Neil and Harp, and how he was going to round out. And I was trying to bring everything back on track, talking away, and I wasn't being heard. So I just had to jump out and back in. So anyway, we're here now, yeah. So I was just asking you about the sale. You might have started a new conversation now, but how's it going now? Then we're back on track.
I have no idea. I stepped away literally for 2 minutes and I've come back to complete silence. I tried to humorously agree with whatever was being said and the conversation started on its ass. So
I would like to kind of pick up before we about...
That's easy for you to say, mate.
Left, yeah. Yeah.
John, your internet keeps dipping.
Yeah, I don't know what went on either. I know Neil wasn't happy with something, but he was talking about space. I think John was pointing out that you'll need a plane of reference to, talk about space. and I don't know what happened after that. I had to jump out my van and go and just post something through the box there, and then come back. I was literally away for 2 minutes.
Well, Neil was saying that the idea that we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour was an affront to his ears, and I was trying to lighten it to say that, you know, as long as you remember it's with respect to a plane of reference, describe whatever you want to. It just shows how silly it is when you understand what space is.
Yeah. Well, we can take that back to what we were saying today about Nathan's book. I know what Neil's saying, but we did give reference to it when we spoke about the curve chapter. You can always bring it back to whatever nonsense is being spoke to a plane of reference and how Earth's being measured flat. So we don't have to get angry and about it. Not suggesting you was, Neil, by the way. I'm just saying as somebody talking to who's speaking about space, you can bring them back down to a level plane and talk about how Earth is measured flat. Exactly what Nathan is doing in the book, which we spoke about today. And that can be quite enjoyable because you can listen to what they're saying and then point out that this is what you're going to need for that paradigm that you're talking about. You will always require a plane, a horizontal plane in every instance for anything that you're talking about. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, like even with their what they want to call non-linear geometry, where they place themselves inside a ball, and you know what I'm talking about. Like, even with that, you need it.
You don't have to go in the ball, John. You can just imagine it.
I also was asking Nathan when that couldn't be heard about the book sales are fantastic after 24 hours. I think that's great. I don't know what usual sales of new or digital books are. And I don't know if you had any sort of, you'd been sort of, Chuck had said, well, you could expect this, or if you had any expectations that you've kept to yourself, Nathan, or what. But yeah, that over 24 hours, that's fantastic. Really, really pleased with that.
Oh, I'm made
Well,
up.
how many-
I think it's down to the fact that it's close to payday.
Right.
How many was sold in the first day? I'm sorry, I don't mean to ask.
In the first, it's just under 100 sales in 24 hours.
Excellent.
Really?
By now, there'll be 100 that have sold. Yeah, 100 copies.
Good job. You've got your affiliate link out there rather than just getting half of what you'd get.
Yeah. Well, I don't get that either.
24 hours.
I don't
You're
get that.
kidding
That goes to my wife. So she has her affiliate link, and I haven't sorted mine yet. That is to say, my account isn't actually finalised, but it means that she can keep a track of which sales have gone through her affiliate link. And she's texting me going, "Oh, there's another one sold," and and she's letting me know as they sell. I'm like, "Oh, great, you're counting your coffers." I haven't sorted mine out yet. But I am glad that she's generating revenue. You know what I mean?
She's rubbing her hands together, isn't she? Like, I'm getting all this money. What are you getting, Nathan?
I'm sure I will.
That's fantastic.
I'm sure I'll get my cut as well. You know what I mean?
So, what did you have in your mind then for 24 hours or a week or first day?
My anticipation was that it would sell half a dozen copies, 6 or 7 copies in the first day or so to you guys on the panel. That was my hope, that I'd sell half a dozen or a dozen copies to the people who were closest to me. So I was hoping like about 10 would be my hope. So the fact that it's done 10x is fantastic. I'm so made up.
Yeah.
So yeah, your expectations have been far exceeded, champion.
I wasn't expecting 100. I was expecting more like maybe 30 in the first day, because there wasn't like a huge lot of fanfare or nothing, you know.
Oh, it did 30 in the first couple of hours.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Because you guys are freaking idiots. This is just the beginning.
What's that, mate?
I was gonna say, Nathan, did you see McToon's review of your book?
Did I see what? Sorry.
Review it. Who gives a toss about McToon's review?
Did you see the video? I'm thinking, what if like him, doing that review? I mean, maybe it's a good thing because they got out to more people. And more people were like, "Oh, I want to check it out myself," because McToon did say a lot of stupid things.
I agree with that. I took a peek. He had about 2,000 views, and I said, "That's good for Nathan. 1% conversion rate."
Yep.
Sold him another 30 copies.
Exactly.
What's not good for Nathan, though, is the fact that McToon is telling people that they can get a free version of the book from his Discord server.
That's just straight up theft, isn't it? So he's a criminal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you should make a big deal about that. That's criminal.
Yeah. But like I say, there's a few people that have been self-snitching in the last 24 hours, which I'm absolutely amazed of. If you're going to steal something, you don't then put a poster up telling people you've stolen it, do you? But these people are thick. It's like they want to go around telling their audience that we're scamming and con artists and grifting. Like, no, you are literally thieves. And you're happy to admit it.
I can see a pattern emerging in it. What is it with you and books getting stolen, Nathan? I think some sort of
Yeah, your book was... It was stolen 3 times before it was ever made.
Anyway, he's like, that's not going to do. I mean, yeah, maybe pursue that, but I mean, he's only talking to knuckleheads there. I mean, when you sell the 100 copies, it's going to continue to sell the more. Now you get the word out there, and like you say, I think it sounded before like you've definitely got a plan now. You're not going to rush into this, what you was explaining before. You're going to do it gradual, contact them direct. And when you start getting on these other platforms, shows, talk about your book, it'll naturally, the sales will continue. And just people generally who are not even, in this arena, who are interested in the subject, Googling or searching for flat earth content, they need to find your book, and I'm sure they will purchase it. So just need continued sales now. So it'd be interesting to see what happens now. Is it going to grow? The continuate? You want continued sales, don't you? Continued sales of the book.
Well, whether you intend to seek legal recourse or not, I would make it a legal issue because there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's basically, they're, by them being scumbags and stealing, a published work, like a moron, that you have, you could have the state basically do your publicity for you. You know what I'm saying?
Just while Nathan comes back on that, but what about Chuck though? I mean, has he had any other? I mean, these digital books. Len mentioned something yesterday about this is the downfall of digital. There must be things you can put in place to stop that happening.
There are, but people find get-arounds for them. But people can also be arrested for those get-arounds.
Yep. One of the reasons I didn't want to go with Amazon and wanted to go with Chuck was he has top-of-the-line DRM. Now, without going into too much details, I'm quite content with the way things have gone. Let's just put it that way. In terms of the ability to manage the digital rights of my book, there is no better DRM management. There isn't any. It is top of the line what he has on that site. So he contacted me immediately because he was made aware of it. Not by any of us, by his digital rights management system. So he's already all over this, by the way. I don't know if you realise that. Like I say, the fact that these people have self-snitched is brilliant. I'm quite pleased. They're just idiots. There's no other word to describe it. You don't advertise. You don't go, oh, by the way, you can watch the new Marvel Doom movie on my Discord server. Come and watch it. You're like, are you an idiot? Are you serious? But that's what they've done. Okay. You want to literally advertise to the world that you're a thief. Okay.
But as well, with the DRM, I would imagine that each copy has some kind of tag or code that assigns that to whoever purchases it. So whoever's leaked it on there will be a bit of information to say where it came from.
Yes, there's a fingerprint. Correct.
Well, I mean, you don't need much of a fingerprint when the dude's making videos where he's saying, hey, I've stolen his book and I put it on my Discord server for you to download. You know, like really, you don't need too much forensics for that confession.
Right. Again, it's pure projection. When these guys call us grifters and scammers, that's precisely what they are. They're con men, thieves, cheats, grifters. That's what they are.
You know, if it works like a normal book does, he's going to have to pay you for everybody that's downloaded that copy.
That's correct.
You know that?
Yeah, I do. I was made aware literally when it happened by Chuck. He contacted me proactively about it. Yes.
So it could be $150 then.
Maybe a lot more than that, brother. Because remember, the Globers are wanting to make sure that they cheat him as much as possible. And probably whatever he sold legitimately, they've stolen 10 times that.
Right, possibly. Anyway, let's not focus on the thieves we have to deal with.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Apocryphon. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, I proudly purchased it, but I did see on McToon's you know, live stream or whatever, he flashed the link that his followers can get it for free, and he promoted that, and he's a piece of crap for that. So I just think you should go after him legally for sure. For sure.
Right, it just makes him a thief, though, doesn't it? So from this point forth, if anybody ever brings up Toon's name, I will, justifiably so, call him what he is, a common thief. Because that's what he is, a thief.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But we should have a whole show about thieving bastard McToon.
Yeah.
You know?
That's it.
Like a whole live show about it, make it a big deal. Kind of like who is the absolute scummiest baller on earth, and McToon's one.
Look, yeah, and not only that, only and highlight the legalities on that show as well, and what are some of the consequences of the actions being taken. How dumb he was to fucking tell everybody he's a thief, and it was me who's carried out the theft. Silly bastard.
You know what, too, though? He might try to say, well, I paid for mine, but the fact that on his platform, he shared to his viewers, like to where they can go get it and not have to pay for it. I think that's like, I mean, there's got to be some legalities against it. Like he's attributing to that. Like he's showing them, oh, this is where you go get it. Now he can say like, well, I paid for it. Yeah, but you showed like 2,000 people where they don't have to pay for it, and you should be held accountable. So I hope they got a tracking on that download, and they could clock how many times that link was used. That'd be great.
I'm pretty sure they can. But it's digital information. You know, every time that thing's taken from, it'll clock it. You know, but you know, like, what's he going to say? It would be like a drug dealer saying, you know, I didn't have a laboratory to make the methamphetamine. I was just selling it. Like, you know, so is that his defense, really?
Yeah, I was just pushing it. But that's how that just shows the low life, don't they? And I mean, it must be sad if that's where your head's at with Nathan, that you've got to try and do this and try and do that. I mean, fucking hell, just, all right, yeah, enjoy the little debate, enjoy the little bit of banter, but they're taking it a little bit too serious. It's really affecting.
Okay, I'm back in my car. Give me the freaking mic. First of all, Nathan, stop being such a damn rough. You know, people lose their service. I can't talk when my freaking guy that I'm working for, that's hard of hearing, but hears every whisper I say, is standing right freaking next to me. Breathe a little bit. Number two, they're snitching on themselves. The authorities will tap them on the shoulder. That's fucking robbery. Now, can we stop talking about the thieves?
Well, I was just saying the thieves actually promote the book. I was talking about it to promote the book.
I play this 90s advert. She's hilarious.
Yeah. When's that 90s, is it? Yeah.
I think it's 90s. It could be early 2000s.
There you go.
It
Probably
came out
probably when all the digital technology was coming out and like saying you got to be. It's still a crime. It's still theft.
That's correct. Listen, Nathan, you accomplished writing a book. Okay. Now this is just the beginning. I expected a little more than 100, but then again, I still haven't had a minute to get. I didn't get paid yet. I still got to buy a couple of copies. I spoke to Skep 936. Very disappointed that there's not a hard copy because he wants me to sign it. But
Neil, how could you expect more than 100 copies to be sold when he didn't even have 100 viewers in the live stream? The fact that he sold 100 copies is mind blowing.
I expected more, but when you're not listening, let me finish.
That's 5 an hour.
People, hold on. You guys spoke for fucking 4 hours.
Okay, go ahead.
Give it a rest. There's still time. I gotta get paid. People get paid on Fridays. People are going to be purchasing it. All right? This is just the beginning. Nathan's going to promote it. I'm telling you. Just sit back and watch the providence of God.
Neil, I love you, mate. But you said it before. I think you're probably feeling it because it's like you said. The book, you've got your work on. You've got to do your work. It's been the time of the fucking show where you're not on the show, and you're always on the show, keeping it sort of moving, and we all love you. And I think you've been a bit frustrated with that. And but we're all here with you, mate. Don't you worry. And your boss is a fucking dickhead.
I love you, Neil.
I love you, Neil.
This book, listen, this is just scratching the surface. It's not even been promoted. Okay? Not
That's
to
what I'm
compare,
saying.
but when the other assholes had their moment, I think it was 30. 30 was sold at the peak of the day. 30. And that just shows me that there's 30 scumbag thieves around, you know? But what I'm saying is, this book, it's a lot of years. Nathan's put over 10 years into a show, right? Now he's converting it into a book. There's a few things that are going to happen that can't happen when you read the book. There's not going to be no rumpusing. So when people are reading how Earth is measured, there's not going to be that freaking baller jumping in right at the main point to rumpus Nathan. So just sit back and let it breathe, people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought 100 was pretty damn impressive for no fanfare. It was mentioned after the live show that didn't even have 100 viewers on it at the time. You know, the 100 is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's nearly $5 per hour.
Several people have bought multiple
how do you measure
copies
that
as well.
time?
The reason it's reached that number is several people have bought 2 and 3 copies per person.
And there's more people that are going to be doing that.
Yeah, and I've had exceptional feedback about the pricing. So the pricing was a real afterthought. So Chuck went, have you got any idea what you want to price it at? And I was like, I don't know. What's a good price? He was like, I don't know, $15. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And that was about the sum total of the conversation. I didn't give it any thought at all. I was like, if that's what you think it should be priced at, then price it at that. And he's like, yeah, okay. And then everyone's come back and gone, what a wonderful price point. I'm like, is it? Oh, great. I'm glad you like it.
I know you're going to think, I'm bullshitting, but that was the price in my head. When I heard ebook first, I was like, probably going to be around $15 for the ebook, 14 and change.
Yeah, that's what it is, 14 and change.
Paperback and the hardcover, I'm looking at $20 to $30.
I text you that information, Neil.
Yeah. Right when I was putting together the 30 dirty words.
Yeah. The thing is, you're buzzing, you've got work. I know where you are, Neil, right? You're buzzing, you got work, you're pissed off, you're missing the show at this particular time. Yes. And I know how you feel. I'm with you, mate.
Sat through 3 years of editing. And then when, boom, it's the climax, where the frick am I? It's like I got erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, and I know how you're feeling, and we can sense how you're feeling, but we still love you, Neil.
Flaccid dick or not.
But what this has done is it's allowed me to keep my mouth closed and listen.
Well, I don't know about that. You've done all right in the last hour, mate.
Well, I'm in the car again. I tell you, it's funny with this guy because he was around on the other side of the house. I said, all right, now's a good time I could get in, but I got to take it off Bluetooth, right? Which is just a click, but then I got to speak into the phone. And just as I'm freaking speaking, I hear him, who are you talking to? Who's that? Holy shit, bro. Get off my freaking back. I'm doing the work. What's bothering him is he sees the earpiece in. So he keeps saying, I said, I ain't talking to nobody. Just make believe this shit ain't in my ear. I said, you see the thing you got in your ear because you can't hear? This is me. I can't hear. Make believe it's a hearing aid.
Listen, what are you doing the job? Are you getting the job done in the time specification you should be getting the job done? End of story.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to talk to somebody...
Listen, he's one of these guys. He calls me yesterday because he went to the Home Depot. So I pick up the phone. How? No connection. Listen, no connection. Listen to me. No connection at all. I'm not hearing him. So I just freaking said, Hal, you're not coming through. I hung up. He comes back and he says, when are you going to realize you're hard of hearing? I said, Hal, when are you going to realize that phones don't work sometimes? My wife calls me and I'm hearing her. She's not hearing me. These things happen with phones. If I tell you I didn't hear you, you're not coming through, then I didn't hear you, you're not coming through. He's a real frustrating guy to work with. But I need the money, so I'll just sit back and, deal with it.
Right. So are you entitled to any 15-minute work breaks or anything like that?
Yeah, that's another thing. He decides to freaking going from one job to another. He takes me off the clock. That shit ain't gonna fly. I already told him. I said, dude, you call me to come in. This is the way I get down. It's been my whole life. I learned it from my father. When my father called people into work, they got work for the day. If the job got canceled, they got paid for the day. If the job got done in 4 hours, they got paid for the day. Because once you ask me if I can work, that's it. My day is done. I'm chalking it up as a full day pay.
Right, but to tell you to go from one job to the next job, one project to the next project, you're supposed to get paid for your gas and your time.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I laugh. I just say, you know what? Whatever. If you're going to start minusing here, because I got to leave to take my wife to work. If the job is local, which most of them are, certain point I got to check out, take my wife and son to work, and then come back. So I lose 45 minutes. So that's my lunch and break time right there. Right? I use that up with that. So I really don't care.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But no worries. He can dock you for leaving like that. He can dock you for that, but
No,
can't
he
dock you
knows.
for.
No. He knows I'm leaving. I'm not leaving behind his back. This is the arrangements. I told him there's going to be times when my wife's got work and I got to bring them.
Neil, what I'm saying, though, Neil, is that he can dock you for that legally if he wants to. But the other thing, leaving one project to go to another project and then taking you off the clock for your drive time is illegal.
Yeah, stupid. He's not, listen. He's in his 70s. He's a Christian guy. He's all right. But he's just his way of figuring out like pay is like totally like he don't get it. And there'll be a time when I'll say, hey, you know what, Hal? It's sometimes you have to realize when somebody, if you say to me, hey, I got a half a day for you, and I say, yeah, I'll take it, then I'm agreeing to the half a day. Right?
Neil, when I had my label working for me,
hold on, let me finish up. But if you're calling me in for a day's work and something goes awry or you want to wrap it up because it's too hot, that's not my problem.
like Neil, when I had my labourer working for me, like for example, if in a day I had 3 2-hour jobs, I'm getting my hourly rate off the client, which is £30 an hour. My labourer's getting £15 an hour out of the client. Then for any time in between jobs, that would come out of my share of my earned wages to give my labourer. So that's how it worked with me, and he only got paid for hours worked.
When you say hours,
yeah, but that's different because you're doing landscaping, okay? There's a whole different thing. When you're doing landscaping, that's time, that's seasonal, you got to watch weather with that, so you're aware of these things. Not contracting. When you're doing contracting and you're redoing people's homes, no.
I guess in that sense, with what you're doing, there's a bit of meat on top of just the wages. There's a profit, whereas I'm just earning wages for time spent.
Well, we've sold 100 books.
Well, since I last gave you that update, there's been 4 more copies sold.
There you go.
Well, see, I kind of expected that. I figured it would start off like a lot smaller and maybe ramp up, and within 2 weeks, you'd be kind of peaking, I guess, on the number of books sold, you know. But I don't know if it's going to go that way. I did not expect this.
You don't know how it's going to go because obviously whoever knows about this, you think, right, Nathan's got his book out, let's buy it. So you have a like a peak, and the initial peak maybe, then it might die down a bit. But then as Nathan gets out and about and we're on the shows talking about it, and we're talking about it every day on our show, then people will just gradually buy the book anyway. Think, well, I'm gonna, put that on me, put it in a basket, I'm going to get that. And then people who are into the subject or just coming into it thinks, I'm going to search for a book. What's a good book? Eric DeBay or, whoever else, fucking whatever. And, I've got Nathan Oakley here. I'll buy that. Measured flat. That sounds interesting. So you don't know. This is the beginning, like Neil just said. It is the beginning of the journey. And we don't know where this journey's going to go.
Hey, just something to think about. My friend Justin, back in the 90s, when the Phantom Menace first come out, he got a copy of it almost 6-7 months, right around in there before it got released in the movie theater. And he put a link to that movie on his website. George Lucas didn't mess around back then either. Within 48 hours, the FBI had knocked at his door, and his dad ended up having to pay for everybody that had downloaded that movie.
Yeah, the same thing happened with, I think it was Epic. I might be wrong about the game coding company, but Half-Life 2 ended up being captured in a development format by some random guy, some programmer, and he shared it with his mate, and his mate ended up publishing it, and loads of people downloaded it. And the company that was producing the game hadn't even finished it off, hadn't released it yet, and same thing occurred. They just went round and just took a shit ton of money off him.
Excellent.
That's what it is. I mean, people take digital rights management very seriously. Because if you don't, it's just a free-for-all, isn't it? It's like, oh, right, if you've spent all this time, like I have, or a film production company or a game, it doesn't matter what. Those are legal rights that it's your stuff that has essentially been stolen. It's like sitting at the back of a movie theatre with a camcorder. That's essentially what McToon has done. He's basically decided that it's a good idea to advertise what a massive thief he is. Crazy, really. It's beggars belief. But there we go. I mean, in their mind, they're like, yeah, I'm sticking it to the flurf. You're like, what, by stealing from him? That's the way you want to go. Okay.
Like Len said, though, you don't know if he might have bought a copy. I think I've seen that in the Master B, that he was the fourth person. Who was the first person, by the way? But he might have been the fourth person. So he might have bought his own legitimate copy now. So if this does come about, you can say, well, I purchased my own copy. Somebody just sent this. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't realise it was stolen. It'll just give it all that crap, won't it?
Well, the people downloading it aren't going to get in trouble. They're not liable for it. The person who put it up for download, since he released it on his website, that link is now affixed to him.
Right.
He is screwed.
Let's have him. Let's take him down to a horizontal plane.
But it'll be from a horizontal plane of reference that you describe the motion of down from. So it'll be parallel to surface level, and his level will drop as we take him down.
So funny. So funny.
And it should be, let's take him south.
Hey, Nathan, I didn't know you was putting like citation links in on the book. I thought you was not doing that.
He said he was going to try to do it as little as possible.
I did notice while, was it Hijacking Science? There was a couple in there. I think actually, did someone mention it? And I think Toon brought one, but I found it strange. But I think there's two in the Hijacking Science on the scientific method, where one of them is like a nutrition thing about misleading or something like that. But it was the second one I thought was more in place with the chapter. But I think some people might find the other one a little bit, oh, what's this about? But I thought Nathan wasn't doing that, like putting the well, he did it in the Hijacking Science anyway. Hijacking Science, he did it.
Yeah. He said he was going to try to limit it to as little as possible. Like it wasn't going to be like it was before, where everything was a hyperlink. You know?
Yeah. Well, that was my only first critique. Then would be, if Nathan's there, is I think that Hijacking Science only needed the one, which was the introduction to the scientific method. That just, to spell it out, that just said everything that he was talking about anyway.
Yeah, from what I read, it was basically just a link to a pretty raw page that was just a definition of what the scientific method is, and it I don't think it's that big of a deal. I checked to make sure the link actually worked and where it went. And that's fine. When you're providing links as a quote unquote citation, it's pretty, I don't know, it's kind of lame when you're citing basic information. It's not like there's a definition of something is an official citation, where most bibliographies are page 28 of Rowbotham's book blah blah blah, right? And those are all historically valid ways of citing dense information that you can research later, or that shows that you used that information as a source for your being able to say the same thing in a paragraph, right?
Speaking of, sir, the best citation I've seen of the scientific method, though, was my kid's 6th grade natural science book. It had it was like a whole chapter on explaining the difference between qualitative and quantitative cause and effect. Like, it went through the whole thing, and it was not a scientific method. It was the scientific method, singular.
Yeah. He could have just have easily cited that book by page, and it would have been just as valid, if not more valid, of a citation. It's like you shouldn't have to give a citation for a definition, for example, or an axiom. If you wanted to, well, never mind, I'm squirrel on that one. But at any rate, there were a couple of footnotes that I liked. Basically, it gave a word definition. I forget. I could pull it up, but it was basically a Wikipedia, or something. And, it didn't have to have a link to it. If you want to find out what the definition of horizontal is, horizontal is blah, 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 Wikipedia, right? You didn't even need a link. So you really wouldn't, like the scientific method, he just needed a source that listed it, like your grade book. And that's essentially what he did with the link for the scientific method.
Yeah, but my point, it wasn't a complaint or anything. I think Nathan's after some feedback, and it wasn't a negative feedback. My first point was, I thought for some reason it wasn't doing the links. And John sort of confirmed that he didn't want to do too many links. And then when I was reading the scientific hijacking science chapter, I noticed there was 2 links, and then one of them was reading. I could understand why it's there, because it's about it was. I think it's to do with nutrition, or some woman with nutrition, which I think some people might just find a bit confusing. But if you do read it, it is sort of talking about misleading people and stuff like that. So which is to do with pseudoscience and scientific method, real science. It's misleading. So I can understand why it's there, but I just thought maybe on that particular chapter, the second one, which was the introduction to scientific method, would have done totally okay, but not complaining, not moaning. I'm just. Nathan wanted this feedback, and I'm just feeding it back.
I want to know why we ain't reviewing the thief's review of Nathan's book. Like, that would make some good entertainment.
Yeah.
I was gonna suggest that whenever anyone's tuned or whoever's reviews come out, that we treat them seriously in the sense that we engage somehow into asking them how they would reword or how they would change it or how they would present the information, and force them to frame the arguments or the paragraphs or whatever they're reviewing, to frame to keep framing it in the context of making the book more true and better.
Oh yeah, they're going to do that. They're going to give ambiguous insults. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So no, sorry, John, you go for it. But I think I was going to say the same thing. Go on, mate.
They're not going to attack any point that Nathan makes in there. They're just going to throw ambiguous insults and read things out of context. That's all they're going to do. Yep. They're not going to give any real review of it.
Well, no, you're talking about McToon, liar and thief. You know, he's not going to. He's never going to critique any flat earther's work as in an honest way. He's just going to try and find nitpicky examples, nothing to do with the subject matter, probably. You know, he won't address any of the correct, the flat Earth measurements which Nathan is highlighting and the housekeeping questions. He won't get into the real depth of the book and what's being told, the story that's being told. He won't get into that. He'll just get into, like Nathan's already said, you probably, there's an extra space there that shouldn't be there, or there's a comma should be there, or, or you've picked this hyperlink and that's not the right hyperlink. Why have you picked this hyperlink? And nothing to do with the book and the information that's being, the real information within the book will not be addressed. But that's who you're dealing with. And are we bothered about McToon? Are we heck? We're not bothered about him. He's nobody.
No, but I would love to watch the video of him reviewing it with you guys, because it's going to be hilarious. I already know.
Well, he's going to do about the same thing he did with Betty's book, and basically just say, "Oh, the whole thing's crap," and stuff like that. And it would just be fun to who was it? There was an Etterbear clone in the lobby on Flipside this morning or whatever, and basically picking apart how commas and spaces and poor prose form or whatever, just like, this sentence doesn't make sense, and
like you can't read it if a comma's like not been positioned in the right place. Like, is there an extra space? You can't read it and get the gist of the information that's being put forward. That's a load of crap.
Yeah, of course it is.
I had to directly engage that guy you'll see in the lobby, but he came in guns blazing about terrible prose throughout the whole book. And then when I called him out for the specifics, he could only come up with the opening sentence that had a misplaced comma. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's an extended run-on sentence. I mean, this is a grammatical rule that's kind of basic. If a sentence runs on, you can separate the thought within that sentence by a comma. Now, I'm no arbiter of was it properly placed and all that, but I mean, that was basic stuff. And really quick, I did fall asleep last night to watching that Tune video. So, John, you were saying how, it would kind of be funny to watch, a review of that or whatever. I can tell you Tune's basic argument is the typical Glober argument with the dangling dingleberry, because, their flat baseline goes off into space. And that's essentially what was his argument. And his criticism was over that reference to the definition of pseudoscience. So I don't know if it's the same reference to the scientific method, but it was definitely that pseudoscience. And he did go out of his way to try to separate himself from the legality of the issue. He was making claims that the copy of the book was given to him. And he did try to throw a few disclaimers throughout to not recommend people kind of go and, grab the download link illegally. That's the best I can tell you guys.
Oh, I'll bet.
But he posted it on his website. He posted it.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I mean, is that true? Did we see that, or is just people saying that? I don't know.
I will guarantee you.
Discord server.
Yeah, I guarantee you he would if he was talking about it, he was saying it. I do not recommend that you go to www.blah blah 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 and download this book. That would be wrong. And if you did go to www.blahblahblah.com and download this book for free, I would really not recommend you do that. Wink, wink. No, that's typical.
On his website. If it's on his website, whether he's saying I do not recommend or not, it's still complicit in the act. Like, I can't go and rape a woman and while I'm raping her say, I do not recommend rape, and think that that's going to get me off somehow.
I totally agree with that. And I'm not here to be his defender in any way whatsoever. But just trying to
I'm not. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound like I was attacking you. I apologize.
No. And also, and Surf Daddy, he I hear what you're saying too, but he didn't do that, because Droid was mentioning yesterday after the show about keeping an eye out for any posted piracy links. So I was kind of on that. And then when I put that show on last night, I was kind of on it too, looking for the actual download link I was going to share to show you guys. I couldn't come across it anywhere. So I know there's been references to it. And, they have dropped a very specific name. I don't know if we're trying to avoid using that name, but they've made a mockery of it. So instead of saying they're, when they're pirating, instead of saying they're stealing the book, they're saying they're insert name hearing the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Leadwelling the book. Is that what they said? Leadwelling?
Exactly. Right. So that's their big joke. And
that's something I picked up on. So it seems like they're acutely aware that they're stealing something, and so that they've got a nice scapegoat, they've started to blame it on one of my patrons. So like, okay, so you think by calling it leadwelling, that changes that you're stealing? I don't think so. And now, obviously, the legality of literal theft is a different issue to how you phrase it to try and get around the fact that you've stolen something. It's not stealing, it's just purloining. It's not stealing, it's just pilfering. You're like, your phraseology isn't really that relevant.
I think he was calling it lend-welling, as in they're not buying the book, they're going to lend it off lend-welling. Like, we're just going to lend
all right.
it.
I thought you were digging at me there, you bastard.
And it all originated with Elderbear. That's where he put that on the screen, some little comment from Elderbear, can somebody lend me the book? And then Toon thought it was hysterical and told the audience and all that.
Well, like I say, it doesn't alter what they're doing. They're stealing. Now, you can dice it up however you like.
At the end of the day, though, right? If you was like Mick Toon or the Globe is there, and Nathan's got the book out, and you'd want to go through it, and if you was going to do a critique on it, you'd do a critique properly, chapter by chapter, and point out where Nathan's not pointing out the flat Earth measurement or how things are axiomatically tied to sea level and the plane, and point out how Nathan is totally wrong about this. And Earth has never always been measured flat. They're not doing that, are they? They're not addressing the actual topic at hand. We know that they're not going to do that, but we shouldn't be asked about them anyway. Really, we want to we know what they're about. Nothing's going to change that. They're just going to be scumbag thieves and try and cause problems like they always have done. But we're hoping we're going to reach out, or Nathan's going to reach out to people who are getting into the subject, who want a better understanding, because it might have been too much to listen to on some of the shows and going too quickly and not absorbing the information quickly and not being able to understand the scientific method, because it can't. that's a even though it's simple really, people have found that complicated. And even on the scientific, what chapter was that again? Now the hijacking science chapter.
They want it to be complicated, though. They need to complicate it. They need, like, clarity is not something that helps their worldview. They need to be confused, and they need everybody around them confused. Because when clarity comes, it doesn't come as a benefit for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they would enjoy talking. They would enjoy talking about the scientific method, right? As Nathan points out in the chapter, like the Globers years ago used to throw at you, well, you've got no science for the flat Earth, yeah, and we didn't pick up on that. You know, flat and science and the shape of the Earth is two different things, yeah. But what I'm saying is, going through the scientific method for us, for anybody, I found it difficult, that subject. Even though I could understand what everyone was saying on the show, I'm thinking, right, you know, observe the natural phenomena, fucking independent, dependent variable, hypothesis. What is a hypothesis? And then the experiment. Even though it's simple-ish, it's hard to get a grip of it and then explain it to somebody. So I even when I read the chapter of Nathan's, I thought I thought people who are just sort of whatever level they're at, pardon the pun, they might struggle. They might have to read back some of they might have to read that chapter a couple of times. Although there is a section in the chapter where Nathan just, I think he puts it in 3 points. You know, formulate the hypotheses. That's the scientific prediction. Validate, invalidate the hypothesis with experiment. You know, and just reading them 3 points. Sorry, should have started off with observed natural phenomena. Would be, that's a simplified explanation of what it actually is, but it's got nothing to do with a measurement of Earth, by the way. Sorry, John.
You just remind on that show, Toon addressed that as well and claimed that he did perform the experiment. And what did he say? The independent variable was him and his location.
That'd be good to go over, wouldn't it?
Location's the cause of what?
I wonder what latitude the location was. Measured from a flat Earth.
Like
location.
What is it?
Give us your coordinates, McToon. You're breaking up, John.
What could location cause?
Yeah, you're chopping in and out, John. Sorry.
The independent variable. So
I think it's actually you one that's chopping in and out, not John.
Is it? All right, sorry.
Yeah, I hope I'm not misstating that. You know, I wasn't paying that close of attention, but I was kind of keeping an eye on it as it streamed through. And also, really quick, I think there's going to be 2 layers to this going forward naturally. You know, Nathan, you got to battle all these trolls and globers, right? But I think we're all hoping, you know, it gets beyond that with the book release, and you know, you have your true kind of promotional tour with the likes, hopefully, of a Candace Owens or even a guy, Jim Brewer. I don't know if you know that name, but he just popped into my head while we were sitting here. And ultimately, how great would it be if you're sitting there with Joe Rogan, you know?
Hey, radio check. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So McToon claimed that his location was the cause of what phenomenon?
So he was trying to, you know, go back to TFE, staring at the sun, and so that was his natural phenomena. He said, staring at the sun, and I don't want to screw it up because, like one deck, you know, I agree with him. It's a hard concept for me to master, but I'm fairly certain he said the independent variable was
Yeah, we didn't catch the end of the
Location.
sentence.
I'm sorry I missed that.
No, we missed the end of your sentence.
Yeah, I was just reconfirming that I'm fairly certain that's what he stated, but I don't want to screw it up because in agreement with one deck, I'm no master of that particular topic.
But you think it was that his independent variable was location?
Yeah, he makes a reference to it. I mean, that was an hour-long stream. I could try to dig into it and grab that part.
He definitely said IV was location. I watched it myself.
Oh my God. So, like, if you put a pot over here, it'll boil. If you put a pot over there, it won't. Location causes water to boil. That don't even make sense. What was this phenomenon or his dependent variable?
Can't remember the DV, but the phenomenon was the 24-hour sun.
Yeah, I don't think he actually specified the DV.
That would be the observed phenomenon. Whatever the observed phenomenon is, that is your dependent variable.
Then he was, referencing good old TFE, so staring at the sun.
So the elevation angle of the sun staying above the horizontal plane of reference for 24 hours is caused by location. Sure.
And now that you put it that way,
sure.
He dumbed it down. He had his little globe. He started spinning it towards the camera, trying to explain it all.
Oh, you've also reminded me there, dude. He kept putting a fucking protractor on top of his little toy globe, saying, there, you can bloody measure from a curved surface. Oh, hilarious.
Yeah, putting a protractor on top of a globe, it ain't dawning on him that, you're not measuring the globe.
At least he's upgraded a little bit from his USB cables and Taylor's tape.
I'm surprised they ain't trying to take
Victory Royale!
Damn it, I hate when you do that. I'd like to see him get a protractor and carve it out to fit on a globe, and make it look like a moon phase and put it on there. See, you can, nerd.
Nice curved baseline on that protractor.
Yeah, or just right on the bottom of it, like I did on that bunk and debunk video, just right on the bottom of it. This is a curve. Yeah, it's a flat line.
Underneath today's live stream video, someone was posting a comment that said words to the effect of "science doesn't prove things," and then they quoted a particular section from my book where I say specifically science proves things. And then they quoted Brown University saying wishy-washy words about it not requiring proof. So I went and dug out about 10 citations that specifically detail science and the scientific method and its acquisition of proof by prerequisite, and demonstrated this person's idiocy when they're affirming their own pseudoscience right as you're talking about it. The reason I bring it up, normally I wouldn't necessarily bring up a comment that's under a show, unless it's specifically relevant to the topic at hand. Well, in this case, the comment is saying, look, science doesn't prove anything. Like, okay, well, we've got a critique of my book that's suggesting that they went in a flat Earth direction of south to measure flat Earth azimuthal directionality of the sun for 24 hours, hours being a derivative flat Earth concept, and elevation angles being the derived value measured from a plane. And it's rather than an address to the facts of the flat Earth measurements that are being utilised by this particular individual who called me up alleged to be in Antarctica, it's, no, it was really science. It does really prove things. Like, okay, so on the one hand, you want science to not be proof of anything, yet this particular individual saying, no, my location really is an independent variable. You know, my dependent variable is the sun. Okay, so you've got proof of the sun, and the proof of the sun is location. That's a fantastic hypothesis. Is this proving something? Is that why you're giving it to us? Because according to my commenters, quoting my book that says science is proof, it isn't proving anything. Science doesn't prove anything. Like, what would be the point of doing it? But it's only when they hijack it and suggest that what they call science is unequivocal proof that they like it to be proving things. When it's anybody else using the actual definitions within the context of the scientific method, then no, that doesn't prove things. Why? Well, because it would demonstrate that my use of non-science isn't science, because it doesn't prove things. So my non-proof can be called proof. It's definitely science. Here's my independent and dependent variable. Even if they're garbage. That means what? Proof of what exactly? It's like, if location, then sun, therefore ball? It's like, are these people complete idiots? And the answer is yes. They've advertised that they're stealing. Like, yes, they are. There's only one conclusion. These people are genuinely stupid, aren't they?
It is very cringeworthy.
Yes, Nathan, they're all stupid. Of course, I go philosophically deeper. I think that these people deny what is true, what is in front of their face. They literally look at something that is axiomatically true, and they deny that it's true. And that is what leads them into absurdity. They're denying knowledge. They're denying truth, and it leads
measurements.
them to absurdity. Yeah, measurements are truth. Measurements are the truth, and they have to deny it. And you see that when you talk to them, and they deny the horizon, or deny horizontal, or deny that level means level, any of that, and they. What we call cognitive dissonance goes into absurdity.
They can do that as much as they want. Just getting back to definitions and the meaning of words, they can deny anything they want. But when you're going to demonstrate something in practical reality, that everything they've said will just fall by the wayside because, just surveying, for example, using a theodolite and a total station, which we can all go and view and witness and. Sorry, just got bloody car pulling up in front of me, idiot. Sorry. It's all measured flat. Even just going for a little hike in the Lake District with a compass and a map, you'll be navigating and mapping flat.
You're focused on all of the wrong things, Wandek. If location, then sun movement, therefore globe. That's science, that is.
You know what I mean, though? Like they can say what they want, but let's get down to the crux of the measurements, and we can demonstrate the measurements. People are measuring the Earth all the time.
Hang on a second. Let's just break something outside that's just occurred to me. Let me get it correct, right? The independent variable, according to this thief McToon, is location. But in his so-called experiment, he does not vary his location, does he? My God, these people are stupid. It's an independent variable of location. I see, so you varied your location. Oh, no. You couldn't make it up.
His location is a coordinate. His location is a latitude measurement.
Yeah, but he isn't varying it. It's this independent variable, isn't it? I mean, it's bollocks. Yeah. It's complete nonsense. But if you take it as read, okay, so you're saying that if you vary your location, did you? You didn't. You measured elevation angles of a flat Earth. So you didn't vary this independent variable. You didn't vary your location then. You just set the tripod up in one place.
Yeah, but he might have walked to the hut and had a vape or a cigarette, and then came back to his leveled tripod. So he did vary. He only varied it by, I don't know what the distance would have been when he walked to the hut.
Yeah, but that's not what he's claimed to be so-called non-experiment, right? What, measuring elevation angles with respect to his degree in the horizontal azimuth. That's not an experiment. That's a measurement of two different aspects: elevation angle and azimuth, or azimuth and altitude. That's what he's actually measuring. What's that? No, it's independent variable. The one thing I did not vary once setting the equipment up. These people are so stupid. Why? Well, because he wants it to comport with science. Because presumably, to some extent, he understands that science, when performed correctly, proves things. So he wants a bit of it. It's like the standard fare swindle that bald believers use. Oh, well, this suggested science is going to be proving something. You know, like I say, while simultaneously other people will tell you that it's not proving anything. Like, okay. But yeah, if location change, even if I don't change my location, then sun movement. Okay, so you vary your location and the sun moves. That's fantastic. And that proves what exactly? Well, therefore a conclusion that's completely unrelated to both the independent so-called movement of location when I don't move location and the movement of the sun, which I'm not in any way manipulating. That is to say, you change your let's say he did change his location. He picks the tripod up and moves it 2 feet. Did that in any way have any causal influence over the sun's movement? No. No. It's just ludicrous.
No. He was still measuring elevation angle in whatever location he was in.
Yeah, but the point of the independent variable, if you're doing actual science via the scientific method, is you vary your independent variable and it causes the dependent variable to occur. So if you move your location, you're causing the sun's movement. No, you're not. That's utterly stupid. When you actually break it down as suggested. But like, he's got the lowest common denominator. He's got a dumb audience. So, you know, that's to be taken advantage of, and more power to him. But it cognitively is incredibly painful to do these things. Because you've got to bullshit, basically, haven't you? That's what they are. Bullshitters, swindlers, thieves.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, lie.
Yeah.
And say...
Lie, cheat, steal. Yeah.
Yeah. But, like I keep saying, it's nothing to do with these definitions and word phrasings or anything else. It's you can witness these things happening in reality. Keep saying surveyors and elevation angles and theodolites, but that's what they're doing. You can go and spend a day with a surveyor if you want and ask him what he's doing. He will be measuring vertical, horizontal angles and distances while measuring, the surface of the Earth. That's what he's doing.
One useful thing.
Sorry,
one useful thing. No worries. One useful thing that might came out of him looking at it is he spotted weather, as in the weather that happens above us, rather than weather.
A spelling error.
I can't remember what section that's in, but if you'd done a search for the word weather, you'd be able to find it. But you can change that at any point, can't you?
Indeed. But with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Millimeter, it be accurately measured.
It's measured flat, direction up and down, flat level we at, flight over ground, descending from that breeze, heading in degrees, horizontal, flat.